Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Roundtable for Big Brother Canada 8. This is the podcast where we talk about everything from the feeds, and in this one, everything that's no longer going to be on the feeds ever again. I'm your host, Aaron Armstrong, and with me tonight is Melissa. How you doing, Melissa?
Sorry, my internet cut out. Did you introduce me?
I just asked
He
you how you're
just
doing.
did.
Perfect.
Yes.
Literally, it came back right now. And I heard Melissa, and I was like,
Melissa, talk.
Anyway, Melissa, Chuck. Well, what a day, huh? This is just a day or I guess a year, really, that just keeps getting sadder and sadder, I guess. Worse and worse. Everything that could go wrong goes wrong. Spent the day crying while I worked. Not great. I didn't think I would take the news that hard, but I didn't realize I would, but I did. And here we are.
Yes. Also with us tonight is Brent. How you doing, Brent?
I'm doing okay. I mean, I feel like we all kind of felt in the back of our heads that this is probably where it was going. The season was so effed up to begin with. I was DMing with Arissa Cox. She messaged me earlier today to be like, like she had little breaking hearts because I had asked her about the season, and she let me know that the season was done. And I was like, that's just it had bad juju from the beginning. From the moment that Nico quit, it was just never meant to be. There was always something going to be wrong with this season. And then you had like the two crazy things that happened with Jamar and then Kyle right behind him, and then Carroll begging to quit, which I don't think we've had people ask to quit, but Carroll actually set out to get nominated and quit. Like it was bizarre. It was just crazy talk. And I don't want to say I'm glad it's over, because I'm not glad it's over. I really was excited for the game to begin, but we're never going to see that now.
Yeah, I think a lot of us suspected that this was definitely a possibility, that the season has officially now been shut down. I think it happened a little faster than we anticipated, though. I certainly was expecting that they would try to drag it out a few more weeks at least, and maybe try to accelerate things, maybe try to give an actual end to the season. But I think that a lot of things just came together over the last 2 days. And it was too much, and they decided that it was time to cut the cord, and that's it for Big Brother Canada 8.
Yeah, I don't know exactly the way it works in Canada. I think it works similar to the way the United States has governors, but I like the premier of Ontario, which is where Toronto is, which is where Big Brother Canada tapes, issued a order for non-essential businesses to shut down, and they exempted telecommunications businesses from that. But I don't think that in the end Big Brother Canada fell under that, or if they did, the producers said no mas and decided to cancel the show anyway. But at any rate, we're done, and we're here to talk about where things stood, I guess, at the end, and what might have been. I don't know. What are we here to talk about, Taryn?
Yeah, well, so we're gonna talk about the week on the feeds. We're not gonna go into too much detail because it's not as necessary, right? We're not talking about things that will matter a whole lot moving forward, but we do want to give the most accurate sort of snapshot of where the house was when the season ended, because that's about as good as we're going to get in terms of a conclusion to the season, some kind of where we can maybe try and make wild predictions about where things could have gone from here. And who was in the best spot to do well, and all of that stuff. There's certainly a lot to talk about in terms of what's been happening this week anyway. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna update the stock watch one more time, give players some ratings for the week, and then we'll update the prices once more, and then the stock watch will be over. But don't worry, unlike Big Brother Canada 8, we will crown a winner of the stock watch after 2 trading windows.
Oh my God.
That'd be good. Maybe I can win.
Yeah. So there you go. And your money will count toward your overall net worth portfolio throughout all seasons. So
all right.
yeah, it wasn't a waste. So
I'm down. And just to be clear, I'm down. Like, me asking Taryn, like, what are we here to do? That doesn't mean that I'm not down to talk about Big Brother Canada 8. I mean, I certainly am. I thought it was an intriguing season, and there were definitely parts to it that I enjoyed. I think the biggest part to me that I am crushed about is Sheldon. I mean, we just do not get a guy who looks like him, who acts like him, who carries himself like him very often on television. And for him to have set himself up in such a great way, I've never seen somebody in the history of the show to be able to win literally back-to-back HOHs and not be anybody's target. Like, he's just way, way, way down the list. Like, people are maybe thinking about him, but in like number 5 target, number 6 target, number 7 target, like it wasn't even close. He had an amazing shield and Brooke in front of him, and I was so excited. I wasn't necessarily rooting for him. Like, I definitely wanted him to face a little adversity, but in the back of my head, I'm like, if he could do this, this would be really fucking awesome. This would be really great. It's not gonna get that chance now.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because I do feel like there were a lot of really strong players, and I wish we could have seen how their games go and what happens. I feel like, we didn't even get to see. We were barely getting started, I feel, and I feel like we were essentially at the point where we were just like getting to know them, like getting to know all their names, know what they're about, know their strategy, know how they're going to start working this, know who's working with who. And now all of a sudden it's just like, poof, doesn't matter. And it sucks because I do feel like this was a good cast. I mean, there were so many interesting characters, so many strong game players. So it's really unfortunate. And I mean, especially during this time right now, I feel like this is a time of a lot of uncertainty and a lot of, unprecedented things happening. And I do feel like Big Brother and going on this podcast every week was something that kept everything feeling normal. Like, I feel like for this like brief period of time when we talk about Big Brother, we weren't necessarily talking about like what's going on in the outside world. And I was kind of able to just like forget about it and talk about something fun and something, interesting and something that's so normal to us. And now I just feel like we're losing that, and this quarantine is going to get a lot worse.
Yeah. It really sucks. I mean, it sucks for the players. It's as Brent said, Sheldon, who wanted to come on this show, that he loved to play it and be like the best player to ever play. Was he headed toward that direction? Well, I think he was definitely doing very, very well. And it could have been a possibility. There's a lot of game left to be played. And so what we're left with is uncertainty. And even if he does get a chance to play again, it's not going to be the same. They're going to know. They're going to see him coming.
Yeah.
So it really does suck for Sheldon, for Brooke, for all of the players who were in there. And it sucks for the crew who no longer have work in this time. It sucks for us. We don't get to talk about the show anymore. It sucks for the audience who took pleasure in the show and who wanted to watch the show. But at the end of the day, it does come down to the safety of everyone involved. And so I think that we all understand that it had to happen. But it still sucks, and
right.
That's where we're at.
I did want to say something really quickly, and you guys can disagree with me if you want, if you read this any differently, but I just wanted to alleviate some fears out there on the way I read this for a couple reasons. So the Big Brother Canada issued a statement, and part of the statement said this. It said, at this time, Big Brother Canada has no plans to resume production at a later date. After a truly unprecedented season, the show will take its final bow over 2 episodes, Wednesday, blah, 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 and Wednesday, April the 1st at 7 p.m. So I got some people asking me if that meant that the show is canceled. And 2 things. Number one, no, that does not mean the show is canceled because number one, they wouldn't answer a question like that right now. If the show was canceled, they wouldn't say right now the show is canceled. They would literally have some distance between this and the show. They wouldn't make those decisions right now. They probably wouldn't make those decisions till what they're deciding to put on their schedule next year. So no, in my eyes, the show is not canceled. And 2, overall, I feel like the show is just trying to say that Big Brother Canada 8 is taking its final bow. Not
Mhm.
like, and when it says the show, it means Big Brother Canada 8, not Big Brother Canada Emeritus is taking its final bow. So I mean, you guys can disagree with me if you want, but I think there's a good chance that we see season 9 when spring in 2021 rolls around.
Yeah, for what it's worth, and this has been talked about by other people as well, that the email that was sent out to media did include in the message, "We'll see you for Big Brother Canada 9." Now, obviously, I don't think it's been officially renewed either, so I don't think that's confirmation that they're coming back by any means. But I think it does indicate that they at least don't know, right? Like they're at least hoping that they're coming back. They are not announcing that they're done.
Yeah.
So
and they would never announce that right now. Like they would never announce now, "Hey, we're done. See ya, girl, bye." Like it would just never happen that way.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, I think that, they've had trouble in the past with trying to keep the show on the air. That they did have, I think a part of that had to do with what was happening with their studio at the time as well. And that was certainly a part of it. The ratings have been better pretty much ever since then. The ratings this season have been excellent. Consistently been pretty good. In fact, I just looked at the ratings for like the new season of Westworld, and I was like, oh my god, Big Brother Canada does better than Westworld. Or at least it appears to be. I'm not a ratings person, but the ratings were very good. Obviously, I think that the situation, the circumstances right now in the world have something to do with that. But it is an indication of the strength of the show. It seems to be getting stronger and stronger as time goes on, ever since it was renewed. So that's something to note, and something else to note is that with the situation with what's happening in the world, pretty much all production for all shows, all of it's shutting down, and that means that there is going to be some big gaps in programming for a lot of networks, I imagine. I think the most comparable time TV wise to this was the writer's strike that happened, I don't know, like 10 years ago, maybe more. And in that time, it was like the golden age of reality TV, because it was so easy to just throw out cheap reality TV while there was
thinking of all the cheap reality TV that I watched during the writer's strike. Oh my God.
Right. So there's certainly I think a chance that Big Brother Canada absolutely could be back in some form at some time. Big Brother Canada is probably going to be suffering the worst from this. We can think about Big Brother US in coming in the summer, which is probably not coming in the summer, but I would imagine has a decent chance of coming at some point, because again, there should be gaps in programming that something like Big Brother would be a great fit for. So there's still a lot of uncertainty with the future of the show, but I don't think there's a ton of reason to like overly panic at this point with either.
So I still have a job,
US.
Taryn. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Hopefully. I mean, look, this is definitely, I have a lot of inherent bias in this as well, because my entire job is entirely connected to the show. So if I'm telling you not to panic, it may be that I'm telling myself not to panic as I look for some like 9-to-5 office job again.
Taryn's like, don't panic, people, don't panic.
He's like, I'm not panicking. Don't panic.
Yeah, it's a hard time for everyone. It's a hard time for a lot of people are going through similar things. So that's where we're at here with Big Brother Canada. The season now over, and I found myself like very sad, not only with everything else that's going on, but with like I miss Hira. I want to hear Hira talking to like JL or something. I want to hear him calling him an accident. I want to hear him making fun of Brooke's jumpsuit. Like I miss him already. I liked this cast. I really did. There were definitely
me too.
Yeah, there were some sour points here, but there were some really great personalities here, and they were all playing pretty decently. So it's definitely disappointing.
It sucks because we'll never know what could have been. You know,
Mm.
we'll never know who the winner is. We'll never know like who would have betrayed who or what could have happened or who would have turned out to be like a star player. I mean, Sheldon or Brooke or whoever, Sue, anyone could have ended up becoming like a legendary Big Brother player. And at this point, we always have to like put an asterisk next to their name because we don't know. Like we can, when we do like ranking podcasts or whatever, I'm sure we probably won't include them, but maybe like honorable mentions, we'd have to be like, Sheldon's a great Big Brother player. We don't know how great he is, but he seemed like he would be great. And it's unfortunate because, a lot of those people who are on the season are big fans of the show, and this is like a dream of theirs. So it just kind of sucks.
I never thought we'd have worse than Mitch. I never thought it would happen.
And now it is.
But I
there
feel like
go.
I feel like Sheldon might be in the worst spot than Mitch. Yeah. Well, so I can tell you that the plan is I will be live tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern just to give an update for anybody that only listens to the live feed updates. I don't want them to just disappear off the map with no explanation. So I will be live tomorrow morning to just explain the situation again, maybe answer some questions in the chat. And then there are still 2 episodes remaining of Big Brother Canada 8. I believe the next one will air tomorrow night. And then the final episode will air a week from tomorrow night. And we will definitely cover both of those episodes. We'll probably do podcasts about them on the following Thursday. Something like that to talk about the Wednesday episodes. And then I'm sure we'll also have some kind of final roundtable wrap up like we usually do for a season where we rate all the players like as a whole, and stuff like that. Mike Bloom has already reached out. He wants to put together a Brant Steele simulation to try and predict what might have happened in a Brant Steele simulation with the rest of the season. So we'll definitely do that as well.
No, I wanted to ask that really quickly. So can we set the Brant Steele simulation? I know we can like put in the relationships and the alliances and all that, but can we set the season where it was at the time that it stopped? Like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely try. Like,
Okay.
I think worst case, we can just put in 11 players because Carroll's not in it, and then start from there.
Okay.
But if not, we can hope even better would be to start it at this point as well, as you mentioned.
Okay.
But I'm not sure how possible that is. But I think it will be very fun. We'll just definitely try that.
Yeah.
And like, so if you haven't seen a Brand Steel before, it's basically like a website where you can simulate seasons of Survivor, Big Brother, or similar shows, and it will do it by like random chance or by little statistics that you put in about relationships and alliances. And you can also like give players statistics like they're a 5 out of 5 at competitions and they're a 1 out of 5 at like a social game or whatever. So so that should be fun. It's essentially just simulate out the rest of the season. We'll try that for sure. And then of course we've got 11 house guests, maybe 12. We got a lot of house guests, more than 11, because I'd love to talk to Jamar. We got a lot of people to talk to interview about the season. Unfortunately, they are already on social media and they're already being fed nonsense by their crazy fans. And so they probably will not be able. They're not clean. We're not getting the sequestered, true opinions. They also apparently basically like divulged all of the game stuff that was happening. Once they were told the season was over, they just kind of
told everybody. I was
kind
of after you.
Stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But we'll do our best. We'll try to ask as many questions as we can about where the game might have gone, what their plan was. I hope I get to talk to Vanessa so I can just be like, why?
Why for all of this?
Right.
And so hopefully we've got some fun stuff for you over the next couple of weeks, so that we will not just vanish off the face of the earth. We still have some content heading your way. And then without Big Brother around for potentially a little while, I would love to continue to do more regular off-season stuff. Talk, maybe we'll finally update our winner rankings after it's been a few years now. And stuff like that. So you can always find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taron Armstrong. So we're gonna do our best to continue to funnel out the content, because we know that there's not a lot out there, and it's gonna start to die off as we go. So we'll do our best as we go. But that's the plan. That's the plan for me. Maybe we'll come up with more ideas as well. But are you guys ready to talk about what happened? What was the final week of Big Brother Canada 8 like?
Sure.
All right. So
it sucks also because just like to really quickly say, it wasn't even a fun, exciting week. Like, you know what I mean? Like, at least end on a week where it's like, oh man, everything's happening at least. And it's just like this week was like, this was supposed to be like the skip week where it was like Carroll was just gonna quit and go home.
Yeah. So the last time we talked, we thought Carroll was gonna last a bit longer. Her wife had just said stay in the game. We were like, all right, she'll probably bring it up at some point again in the future, but I think she's good for now. Literally a day later, she's talking about quitting again.
Yeah.
And at that was, okay, well, that's over and done with. And by the time the HOH competition happens, you guys saw this in the episode, she was full on begging to be evicted from the game, which, as we've talked about, is, in my opinion, far worse than just self-evicting. So that's what Carroll was doing. Obviously, the last time we spoke, that Kyle was ejected from the game after we talked. We did not anticipate this at all. We were talking about how Jamar had been removed from the game, and then all of a sudden Kyle was removed from the game. Not much explanation as to why. It seemed like a panic damage control kind of deal to me, but that happened, and the entire house really reshifted with both Jamar and Kyle gone. The eviction was canceled. Min, her life was saved in the game, and then Sheldon won HOH again. And so Carroll and Min went up on the block to get Carroll out of the game because everybody agreed to send her out. Hira won the veto, and then Sue tried to flip the vote to get Min evicted and then have Carroll just either stay another week or self-evict. And that's about where the feeds stopped. We're going to talk about the state of the house and where it was, but that's really where the feeds went to. It was all just about Carroll and how she was quitting, and are they going to let her do this? Are they really going to go through the motions and send her out? Which they, at the time of the feeds going down, it seemed they were, Melissa.
Yeah, I mean, look, about Carroll, I actually haven't gotten to talk about Carroll quitting.
Yeah, can we rip her a new asshole? Go ahead.
Yeah, this is honestly, I felt like she had a lot of promise in her preseason interviews. I was very excited about her. She seemed hungry for the win. She seemed like she was really excited to play. I only picked her later than I would have. I would have picked her near the beginning, but because, was quote unquote older and maybe wouldn't fit in, I was a little worried. But I was like, she's got this, like she has the motivation, she's interested in playing, she's a fan of the game, I had high hopes. And the second that she started the game, it was like just total disappointment. She didn't seem motivated at all. She didn't care. She kept talking about quitting. And, there's always the initial I'm gonna quit, or I feel I can't do this, I'm sad, crying sort of thing, like Vanessa in like Big Brother 17, and then they turn it around, they get into it's like the homesickness at sleepaway camp or something, where it's like you get in there and you're like, I can't do this, I want to go home, and then you get used to it and you're like, oh wait, actually I want to stay, don't want to leave, and then you're good. But that just never happened for her. And the quitting thing is just I have no respect for it at all. And I don't believe that just because you get voted out because you ask people to and you're not actually quote unquote quitting the game, that doesn't mean anything to me. You're still quitting. It's still a total quit. And honestly, it's worse than a quit because you're wasting our time. You're wasting the fans' time. You're wasting producers' times. You're wasting the crew time. You're wasting everything. Just leave. If you're going to beg people to vote you out, then just leave. Because it's honestly like not worth any of our time to have to go through a waste of a week like this. Yeah. It's just pointless.
Yeah. Well,
the only other time we've seen this happen on Big Brother was Big Brother Celebrity. Mm-hmm. That the celebrities felt like they were owed this kind of treatment, that they should be voted out so that they didn't have to go through the disgrace of leaving. And even in Big Brother Celebrity, these wishes were not. They did not want to go through with this, but the evictions were so much faster that the celebrities were willing to wait an eviction or two in order to leave so that they didn't screw over their allies. But Carroll, whose follower count has probably doubled, as she predicts, I guess is now a celebrity and needs to be treated as such, better than such, maybe. And that's where she's at.
Yeah, let's be clear about this. The fact that Big Brother Canada 8 was ultimately canceled because of the coronavirus does not absolve Carroll over the fact that she has been an utter disappointment this entire time. Like, I'm kind of mad that we don't get to see her quit now because even if she got evicted, I was going to call it a quit. It was a quit. Like, she literally took up our last week of feeds that we're going to get for a long time on Big Brother, just whining to people about the fact that she wants to quit. And she also kept saying, this is like, I've seen this before. You guys forget that I was in the military, right? People go into the military and it's like a shock to your system, right? Because all of a sudden you don't get to do whatever you want to do. You're doing what other people want you to do. And I remember I was like on the phone with my mom crying. I was like, Mom, I hate this. I think I made a mistake. I think this is terrible. I got to go home. My mom was like, oh, honey, just hold on. And you adapt to it, right? But like Melissa said, Carroll never adapted to that. And honestly, I believe this is the reason why the producers don't take more of a flyer on older house guests sometimes, because older house guests are more set in their ways. They're less likely to have a laissez-faire attitude like some of the younger house guests have. And Carroll was on the feeds earlier this week, and I retweeted it when Liza from Big Brother Canada 1 was talking about it, because Carroll was mad at the fact that she doesn't like being told what to do. She doesn't like being told to follow the rules, and she doesn't like being told to wake up now and that you have to do this and go here and stand here. And well, what did you think the show was going to be like, Carroll? Like, if you're a fan of the show, what in the world was your expectation when you walked into the house? It is just stunning to me that you didn't have more of a truth. And then to hear you go on about how you're going to be an inspiration to people when you're going to walk out with your head held high, when we all know you're quitting, which is what it was going to be, and then talk about your follower feeds and how you hope you get some good gigs out of this and your $100,000 that you can make in 2 months. Why did you come here? Whoa.
Yeah, like if you're not okay, like if you're not in it to play the game and you don't care about like the outcome of the show or anything like that, then at least come for money. But if you're not coming for money, then like, okay, you're coming for like the fame of it. I don't know. I just feel like none of it. If you're not coming to play the game, then don't come at all.
If I even come close to hearing the words from Carroll, I made it the whole way through.
Oh my God.
I'm going to lose my mind. Because she never actually was evicted.
No. Oh God. Ugh.
Can you imagine if she says, hey, I tied in the end with 11 other people?
Ugh. It's like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. You quit.
Yeah. So that's that and it really did. It it took the final week of the game and turned it into something that wasn't really a game, and that's really unfortunate because this was a fun cast. Luckily, we did have, you know, Sheldon and Brooke doing a lot of things behind the scenes. We had Sue freaking out and trying to flip the vote, which was entertaining enough, I guess. But still, like, imagine what this week could have been if not for her just like shutting it down immediately. And the crazy thing is that she wasn't in a bad spot, and I do not mean to say this to like support her case that like she could have done so well in the game and would have maybe gotten to the end, because well, I mean, she might have, but not because of like her being a master game player or anything, but like she was in an okay spot. She was like aligning with people. She was in between a couple of groups, and it wasn't like she was just a player that was just sitting there doing nothing. That's normally the kind of player that quits, but she was playing. She just didn't want to be there, I guess.
Yeah, I know, it's such a disappointment. I'm really kind of shocked about it. Again, Carroll is like 1 year younger than I am, so I don't like think of Carroll as being an older person. I mean, like, because I don't feel like myself am an older person, but boy, she acted like it. She acted like such a stick in the mud most of the time.
And look, yeah, the attitude of just feeling like at the very start of the week after the HOH competition, all right, guys, it's my turn. Everybody do what I want, and spend the entire week. The entire week is about
catering
me.
To her. Yep.
I get to sit up on the block. You guys get to do what I say and send me home. And that this is somehow more respectable than just leaving. It's very, very frustrating.
Yeah.
I did ask on the survey that I knew this would definitely be a topic. I asked, is it more respectable to quit outright or to ask to spend a week evicting you?
It's honestly such a waste of our time. It makes me, that's the thing, is like, okay, quitting, it's like, okay, fine, whatever, go. You're not a good game player. Like, I don't have like respect for you. But if you make us sit through the whole week knowing that you're essentially quitting and we have to watch you get voted out because you've like laid down and died, that makes me mad. Like, that's the thing, is like, okay, you quit. I don't have respect for you. Okay, bye. I'm not mad at you. I'm just like that. Okay, no, you're not a good game player. But when you waste my time, that's when I'm angry and that's when I'm annoyed. And so like, I'm annoyed with Carroll. Like, okay, she wants to quit. That's fine. Like, Nico didn't waste my time.
Yes.
You know, he's fine. He left. I'm annoyed. Like, I'm not annoyed because I'm just like, whatever, like, that's your own choice, but I don't respect you. And then, but Carroll, she wastes my time. I like, not only do I not respect it, but it makes me mad.
Yeah. 92% of the audience says quit outright. That is the more respectable thing to do. 8% of the audience, Carol's family and friends, I believe. That's where they came from. All right, let's talk about the state of the house. Where were we when the game ended? We're talking a lot about Sheldon. Certainly Brooke deserves a good chunk of credit as well, though I'm not sure that she had the prospects were quite as bright as they were for Sheldon there. But this is where we were at. Heading into next week, looking forward into the future, we're going to do our best to try and explain to you and describe how the season might have played out given the current state of things. So the main thing is that we had Sheldon and Brooke at the center of everything. It was like one big Venn diagram, and they were like the center circle, and they were in all of the other circles. And so they had an alliance with every single person in the house. Some form of an alliance with every single person in the house. They weren't after anybody in particular because they were sitting so well that they really could just let both sides take shots at each other. I imagine that the plan would have been, if one side hits the other, then they will then support the retaliation, and then continue to play them off of each other in that way. They were keeping an eye on Hira. They were a little bit worried about him, saw him as a potential long-term threat, and probably would have encouraged the target to shift onto him if possible. They had individual sort of alliances or final three deals or whatever with people like JL, Squadron Midnight, it was called. They had a loose one with Min. They kind of had a loose understanding with Sue, even with Hira to some degree. They had a kind of like a 4 thing with Maddie and Ree. They had, of course, the 5 thing with Vanessa, Chris, and Sue. And so they were, as I said, really just in the middle of everything, while those two sides, the two sides being JL, Hira, Maddie, and Ree, kind of on one side, they were going after Chris and Vanessa. Those were their targets. Min was kind of like, put her on the block. She's expendable. Sue, expendable. We probably wouldn't put her on the block. Maybe we would, but she's expendable. Not less so than Min, but still expendable. The target, though, Chris and Vanessa. No plans to turn against Sheldon and Brooke anytime soon. And they never really talked about it. They only ever talked about Sheldon and Brooke being a target in front of them, which was a misread on their part. Then we had Vanessa, Chris, Sue, and Angie kind of on the other side. They were going after JL, Hira, and Min, respectively. And they also had no plans on turning against Sheldon and Brooke anytime soon. Unlike the Victor side of things, Chris and Vanessa in particular, did talk about very long term, in the end game, they would have the numbers over Sheldon and Brooke that they would eventually have to go, like final 5, final 6 kind of thing, once they have Sue on their side, which gives them the numbers, and then maybe Angie as well, that they would then overpower Sheldon and Brooke. But that was so far off that I don't think there's really any need to give it much credence, because let's be real, it was never happening. And then, of course, Min, just kind of hanging out because she was supposed to be evicted twice in a row. Didn't happen. At the time the feeds went down, she was going after Sue and would have put Angie on the block. Who knows what she would have done after that? She was trying to work with all 3 sides, essentially, the Vanessa Chris side, the Victor side, and with Sheldon and Brooke, but none of the 3 sides trusted her, and I'm not sure how much traction she would have gotten, but we'll never know. So that's basically where the house stood when things stopped, Brent.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to the coming week, you guys. I really was, because I felt like the house was beginning to split, and Sheldon and Brooke were in the middle of it. And the thing that I was looking forward to the most was the fact that eventually somebody from one side or the other was going to win HOH. And at that point, Sheldon and Brooke were going to support the person who wins HOH from that side. And in doing so, possibly reveal to the other side that they were double dealing.
It's always the tricky part.
Always the tricky part. And that is where the rubber meets the road. That is where Sheldon and Brooke would earn their money. Okay? And God damn it, we never got to see it. Because some people can do it and some people can't. Like, some people can balance that and make people think, oh, no, but I'm really supporting you. I had nothing to do with this. And they don't channel or cause regret or resentment in other people. Like, well, think of it this way. When you have allies and somebody from the other side wins HOH and they're targeting you, and you see your allies just easy peasy lemon squeezy, you're just Sheldon and Brooke are just sitting away, like not doing anything, not worried about squat. You're looking at them like, what's going on? Like, why not them? Like, what about them? Why do they get off? Like, I'm the one out here, fighting my ass off. What are they doing? And then that builds resentment, and it's only the really great players that are able to tamp down that resentment and still hold the trust of the people who are being targeted in the palm of their hand. And I believe that Sheldon would have been able to do that. But given his somewhat emotionless nature at times, it would have been very intriguing to see. And also, given the fact that Brooke, and I don't think she even realized this necessarily at the time, that Brooke was the alpha in the relationship as far as the house was concerned. She was in front of Sheldon, and she would have been taking the bullets. I don't think she realized that at the time, but she would have quickly realized that once somebody got HOH and decided to target her if they were resenting her and Sheldon. So I'm really bummed that we're never going to get to see that. It was really about to be good stuff.
Yeah, it is. It's especially unfortunate because, I mean, the stock watch showed last week. I mean, everybody was about like a 5-ish because we were all just in limbo. We were all like, okay, now the game is about to start. Now we're about to see, like, you know, who are the good players, you know, separate the weak from the chaff, you know? And I'm sad that we don't get to see the results of that because I don't necessarily feel like we really got to see much change. Like, I don't know if we'll see a lot of change in the stock watch this week, just because this was kind of a bye week. It was like, yeah, sure, there were some relationships being built, but it wasn't like we got to see a real big shift in things that were going on or big shift in relationships. Yeah,
it was incremental.
It was an incremental change. And it's unfortunate because I do feel like if we had just gotten one more week, we might have seen some big shifts in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I do think for me at least that I did see a big shift in this week, especially because of everything that happened. Like one of the uncertainties that I was finding in the previous week was that Jamar had just been kicked off, and we had no idea how that was going to impact the game. And then after that, Kyle was kicked off as well, and that completely had another massive impact on the game. And one of the things that I found this week was, okay, well, this is a great opportunity to test some of the house guests' mettle here. Who is able to adapt to the new shifted landscape the best? And that's why I was so impressed with what Sheldon and Brooke were doing, because they were hit probably the hardest of anybody in the house by losing both Jamar and Kyle, and they managed to turn that into the best spot in the house yet again. And so I was very impressed with that, especially coming off of the previous week where I was doubting Sheldon's abilities as a player. And so I was impressed by that, and I've also been impressed with people like Hira, who's was continuing to grow as a player, and really starting to set himself apart strategically, physically. And I was very excited about that. We had JL, who was getting in with Sheldon and Brooke, probably would have been protected over Hira, and was kind of double dealing between the old evictors and Sheldon and Brooke. Probably would have fell victim to them eventually if that had continued, but was very interesting to see, and I was very curious to see where it would go. Obviously, I would have loved to see what Vanessa was going to do next. Every single week, she was surprising me with something new. Min was going to stay in the game. Min, who is like that player this season that always has good ideas, but like terrible execution, and then also some terrible ideas, but always fun to watch. And so, you know, and even Chris was like such a weird player. Chris. But like we're never gonna find another Chris ever again on Big Brother, and we don't get to see his downfall. Like we don't get to see when the ego pops, right? Like that would have been excellent, but it's not there. But anyway, my point, I did see some shifting here, so that will be reflected in my ratings this week.
I suppose it will be in the numbers. I guess we didn't get to see the fallouts. I guess is what I'm trying to say. I felt like I knew what was about to happen, but it kind of depended on who won HOH to see who really got the short end of the stick.
Yes. So let's just try to do some absolute like crazy speculation. If we say, all right, next week it basically came down to which side was going to win. If I'm being honest, I feel like just Vanessa, Chris, I feel like they're probably a little bit more likely than JL and Hira to win the next competition. Maybe, but it's hard to know. But let's just say they do. I feel like that might be bad for Hira. That Hira might go. Maybe he wins a veto. This is how immediately it's like this is impossible, right? What happens if Hira wins the veto? The entire game changes from that point. But assuming that something along those lines happens, one side is weakened. Then it becomes, as Brent, you said, can Sheldon and Brooke continue to play the middle as this is happening? And They were doing a pretty good job of it, so I have some reason to believe that they could have been successful here, especially because of how much like animosity was between the Vanessa, Chris, and like JL Hira side. So I feel like especially if Hira left, then it would still be the Evictors versus Chris. Then maybe Chris leaves the next week, and you've got like Vanessa, Sue, and Angie versus JL, Maddie, and Ree. I feel like there is a timeline where Sheldon and Brooke do continue to do well. I think that at that point, Min becomes their biggest problem if Min doesn't end up leaving this week, or if Hira doesn't leave, he could become a long-term problem. And based on what we saw with Sheldon competitively, I do think that he can probably win a large chunk of competitions toward the end, especially if people like Hira and Chris leave. Then it doesn't seem like there's a lot of other competition in his way, both physically and mentally. So I do feel like Sheldon and Brooke have a very good shot to move forward. I do think that Sheldon has a better chance than Brooke. It's just socially, for whatever reason, there are still so many people that don't like her. With people like Vanessa in the jury, I feel like Sheldon definitely has a much better shot. I do think there's a decent chance that Brooke tries to cut Sheldon at the end, although by then she might be so like deep in the lovey-dovey that maybe she doesn't. But I think she'd want to, but maybe have a hard time and not know. That would have been maybe interesting to see. But either way, the way I look at it, I do feel like Sheldon probably had the best shot. If we can do anything with this prediction, which is again so crazy and out there and impossible to know for sure, that if we're giving odds, maybe Sheldon had slightly better odds from this perspective right now. And I'm not saying that to do him any favors, because he's really gonna hate that I'm saying this if he ever plays again. But that was my view on things. Brent, do you have similar thoughts? Or?
Yeah, my feeling on it would be to have a totally egalitarian view and give everybody equal percentages of winning the game, and then go from there. Like,
yeah,
I think
exactly.
you would add about if you say like each house guest has about an 8% chance of winning the game if they're all equal, add about 10%, I think, for Sheldon. I think that's about fair.
Yeah.
I'd say give him about an 18 to 20% chance of winning the game. I think about 1 out of 5 times a guy like Sheldon at this point in the game, with his game and this cast, with the relationships that are set this way, is going to win the game. And that is more than anybody else who's currently in the game right now. There will be other people that you can look at who might have a potentially better chance to win the game. People like Angie, who I think did not have much of a chance to win the game. People like Hira, who I don't think had much of a chance to win the game. I liked Hira's game in some ways, and I liked where he had evolved to, but I still felt like they're never going to let a guy like that get to the end of the game. Not somebody that's that well liked.
I think also he started too slow. It was too slow of a start. Yeah. Like he was getting there, but by the time he got there, like Sheldon and Brooke had been there for a while, and so. Yeah. It was a little too late. I like you did much better than me at you went with the numbers, the percentages, which is a much better way of explaining what we're doing here. So thank you for that. Melissa, what are your thoughts?
This is my prediction. This is how I just see it. I see it this way. So I'm not going by numbers.
All right, give it to us, Mama.
Logic.
Based on
based on just vision. Based on my vision.
Don't say Vanessa.
No. My vision of the future is the final two comes down to Sheldon and Maddie.
Ooh.
The jury is super pissed because at one point Sheldon had to cut Brooke because, it came down to it and he was like, I can't beat Brooke. She's too good. So he cuts her. And I see a situation where everybody's pissed off at Sheldon because they feel like he betrayed them because he had said he was working with each of them. And then they found out he wasn't. Mm-hmm. And it's a very similar Tyler scenario. And then it ends up that Maddie gets the win because the jury's upset with Sheldon.
And Maddie was more real. She never pretended to be your friend. What they say. Yeah,
they say she, and even Minley is like, we fought, and she, she wasn't afraid to tell me what she thought. everyone's saying like she was real to me the whole time. I thought Sheldon had been working with me and he wasn't, and he betrayed me.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm voting for the
honestly,
realest person on this stage, Maddie.
If you're one of those people, frankly, like me, who just like lets people have it sometimes and like, you know, like really doesn't give a shit, and you're just like, whatever. And then you find your way to the end of the game, I really like your chances to win, because at that point, people are tired of the bullshit. They're pissed off. They want to take it out on somebody, and they look at you and they're like, you know what, you're kind of an ass, but at least you're an honest ass. Like at least I know that you're real, even though you're a total jackass to me. I can definitely see Maddie taking the win.
Right?
That's one of the things I was really interested in seeing, or at least potentially seeing, was Sheldon kind of being in that role where he is a lot more upfront with people than somebody like Tyler was. And so I was really like, because I don't know how this would play out. It seemed to me so far that Sheldon's blunt, sort of cold approach has actually been working for him in terms of damage control, that people like Maddie, Ree, and even Min don't mind that he's basically put them on the block, betrayed them in some way. It seems like it's actually coming off better than when Tyler did it, because Tyler was so warm and so like comforting, and he would just like draw you in with his eyes and made you feel like he loved you. And then when he stabbed you in the back, you felt so betrayed, versus Sheldon's sort of like cold robotic nature. It almost feels like that it might not incur the sort of bitterness that Tyler did, but that's purely theory at this point, and I really would have loved to see it play out.
I never remember Tyler saying to anybody, I just don't trust you, which is what Sheldon said to Min, which is what Sheldon has been more honest about with other people. So I don't think that Sheldon would be, his sins would not be that of Tyler's, and I don't think he would be held as accountable. I think he would be held accountable, and I think Maddie could still beat him. But I take your point, Taryn, that Sheldon is a bit more of a, like, he doesn't care about your feelings as much, and thus, on the flip side, he doesn't engender quite as much resentment when he stabs you in the back.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you guys have to pick a winner, just for out of nothing, who do you think wins the season?
Sheldon.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say Sheldon.
And not just that, because it's Big Brother Canada, and we've seen that Big Brother Canada does not change their competitions.
Yes.
We've seen this story before.
That's genuinely a huge part of it.
It really is. It's like
I think would dominate those competitions. And
if he gets anywhere near, I think what did Kevin Martin say? Like final 8, final 7. Like once Kevin Martin knew he was at final 8, final 7, he was there.
Exactly.
Those comps are totally crackable, and he would have his lay of the land in terms of what he wanted to do. So unless it was somebody else winning vetoes and whatever, he would get to write his own path and take Angie to the end or whatever he wanted to do.
Yeah, the fact that he was both in the best position strategically in the house and is probably the best competitor in the house, like those are the two major, like if we can look at anything in terms of predictors, those are the two main things, especially for Big Brother Canada. So
his big thing would have been, at some point, him and Brooke were going to be on the block. Brooke wins the veto. That is the point in time where he would have been absolutely effed. He would have had to come up with the votes and find a way to stay in the house. And given the choice that Brooke was still in there, convincing people to keep him as well, even though Brooke is also safe, would have been an absolutely monumental task.
Yeah, I don't know if I could see that happening.
Yeah, I don't think so. But that would have been his one, because Brooke is a good player too.
Yeah,
and she could have won one of those, comp breakable, crackable, the ones that they use over and over again, things that Big Brother Canada asks. Brooke would have been able to do one of those, I believe, especially the quiz ones at the end, and that would have been his one pothole that he needed to avoid.
Yeah, I do like, Melissa, though, your prediction of Maddie being in the final 2. I think that's one of the more likely options, especially if we do predict that Sheldon is there as well. That means that he probably did manage to keep both sides at each other, and I think that Maddie is probably the sole survivor of the evictors in that scenario, and very likely to end up as somebody that gets taken to the final two. And
maybe Min. I could see Min going to the end.
Man, I kept, the problem is that I kept thinking that over and over.
Yeah.
But then 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, she's so messy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? I want to too. I want my mind to go there, but like it would really be an uphill battle. Really be an uphill
Plus,
battle.
I think after 2 weeks in a row, having supposed to have gone home, like while that like technically should be like bad for her reputation, like the story, and they talked about this in the house, the story is so good that she was supposed to be gone, but she just keeps surviving. She's the cockroach, and so I'd be a little worried about that if I had a choice of who to take. But I mean, I will say, if Min did survive this week, it didn't look like she was in a ton of danger. She mostly had to worry about Sue and Angie. That, you know, Chris and Vanessa, they had bigger fish to fry. And so she only had a couple of people left coming after her. I think her main problem is that, again, anytime that Sheldon or Brooke won the HOH, she is the perfect person to continue to play the middle and just take her out of the game, remove that wild card aspect. Because
they don't want to pick a side. That's
Yes.
the problem. They're not going to pick a side because they're covered on all sides. So who do they put up in that instance? They put up Min Lee.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see where that would have gone, though. And yeah, we touched on Hira. I loved Hira, but I think a little bit too slow of a start. But if he did manage to stay in for a while, if he did keep winning vetoes or something along those lines, I could see him being a threat in the long term for Sheldon and Brooke. But they were aware of it, so who knows where that would have gone. JL, I loved what he was doing. Unfortunately, he was also a bit of a big threat, a big target in that house at the time. The fact that he was still, he did a good job of detaching himself from Maddie and Rhee initially, but he kind of drifted back toward them over the course of the week once Kyle was gone and everything. Now, he still was trying to work with Brooke and Sheldon, which I do think is potentially a saving grace for him in the game, but ultimately, when it comes down to it, and you look at the evictors, there's still 3 people who are very, very tight, and he is the biggest target out of all of them. It's really hard to see how he doesn't go home at some point, because the 3 need to get broken up, and if they break up the 3, JL is the one that's going to take the hit. So I feel like that would have dragged him down at some point. Chris, I really felt, was just not long for the game. That one of those evictors or Hero was going to win at some point and get him out of the house. No idea what Vanessa does. She probably
Vanessa doesn't know.
If she loses Chris, she probably has no choice but to just go all in with Brooke, Sheldon, and Sue. She probably makes a final 2 deal with Sue, something like that. But I just don't see her path at all. I don't think she'll be overlooked. I think that they will continue to be worried about her, and they knew that she had a connection with Angie, which was threatening to them as well, the evictors. So I'm not sure I see that. Sue, I think, was in some danger heading into next week. If somebody like Min won, she was also, potentially going to be used as a pawn. But, she just didn't have a lot of respect in the house. And so it's hard to see, I could honestly see Sue maybe lasting a little while, but eventually being taken out because everybody saw her as either expendable or threatening because of her social connections. But also at the same time, I'm not sure I see her winning in the final 2. Unless she does something really different. There was a lot of stuff I liked about Sue's game at the start, but this week I was definitely turned off a bit. So I think that's, Rianne, I think, also could have done okay. I think Maddie would have been the more likely to go far, but Rianne may be more likely to have a bit more respect in the end. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
I'm good.
All right.
I don't. It's too much to think about.
It really is.
I know it's so hard because there's just so many different possibilities, and we don't have enough information.
I let my mind go there, and I'm like, oh hell, that would have been good to see.
I know it sucks. It makes me sad.
Can you imagine Brooke cutting Sheldon?
Like, I know it's like all these scenarios that could happen, and it's sad.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get to the final stock watch of the season. The third one.
Right.
That's the wrong one. This is the right one. So here we go. This is what we've got for this week. Like I said, we are going to rate the players based on this week, where their position is this week, how they played this week. That will be the final entry in the stock watch. It will update the prices one last time. So your trading, decisions that you made this week will still have an impact. We'll then show the leaderboard, and that will be it for the season. So it's not a full season, but at least we're crowning a winner somewhere. So we'll have fun with that. And then for the wrap up roundtable that we do, maybe after we talk to some people or whatever, where we talk about everything that we saw in the season. I'm sure it won't be nearly as long as most of our wrap up roundtables, but in that one we will rate all of the players based on how we view them as players wholly versus just this particular week. So we are at this week right now, week 3.
Yeah, great.
Noah Salmons is like, this is bullshit because I was playing the long game with the stock watch.
And now everyone's
the breaks, kid.
Game.
So was Sheldon, right?
Right?
No, I mean, my ratings this week, I do feel like are going to be a little bit different because all the previous weeks I was trying to think here's how I think they're doing. However, this could come back to bite them because this and that, and we don't know where they're going to end up. Now it's well, we know where they end up. So my rating's a little different just because it isn't going to come back to bite them. Because, normally my thoughts are okay, them making these moves this week might hurt them in the long run. So that's why I'm not going to give them as high of a rating because we don't know where it'll go. But now it's all these potentially bad moves or potentially risky moves, they didn't bite them because
it could have if the season had continued.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. My
too many
ratings
steps.
Too many steps. I'm a 1 to 2 kind of gal.
All right. Well,
so,
I'm trying to pretend that this is fully just like any normal week 3 as much as possible, and that I'm trying to do my best to project from this point forward. So. We'll do our best. All right, let's start with Sheldon. We've already talked a lot about each individual, but in particular, talking about Sheldon, I was, last week we gave him a 5, which was down from the 6 that we had given him the week before. And that was because he won HOH. He was making decisions that we weren't entirely in agreement with. I did say at the time that I could see both sides of the argument with his decision. But the thing that really struck me and put the fear into me in terms of Sheldon as a player was his seeming inability to deal with highly emotional players, in particular Jamar. And the fact that he was losing Jamar as an ally was a big turnoff at the time and indicated to me that there might be a long-term issue with Sheldon's game. Now, we never got to see him deal with Jamar in the long term, but having dealt with the adversity of losing Jamar and Kyle, and seeing him really come out on top, I am a lot more confident in Sheldon's ability, not only strategically, but socially. A lot of people talk about Sheldon and Brooke always hanging out together, never socializing, whatever. But Sheldon and Brooke are actually the most social people in the house, except for perhaps Hira, maybe Sue. But they're certainly, they talk to everyone. That's why they're in an alliance with everyone. Other people don't talk with everyone, and they only talk with their group. Other people have bigger groups of people that they talk to more often, but they don't socialize with the whole house, and that's the difference, and that's the kind of value socializing. That's the value in socializing, is that you can get these kinds of alliances, right? So I actually am not nearly as down on his social game as I think a lot of people are. And emotionally, he did show an aptitude for connecting with people on a more emotional level this week that I didn't really see before. I felt like maybe he was a little closed off last week because of the situation and everything that was happening with Jamar. I don't know, but we definitely, or at least I definitely saw a different side of him this week that I was kind of impressed with. So all that said, Brent, what do you think?
I thought you were going to give a score.
I mean, I can.
That's fine. I'm curious. What is your score for Sheldon?
Okay, so I decided to give him an 8 out of 10. And that is because, like, looking at his position, looking at like what he managed to do, and in particular for me, it's the adversity effect that I always look for. When a player is challenged, how do they respond to that challenge? And the fact that he came out even better than he was before, I was very impressed with that. The fact that he won 2 back-to-back HOHs and has basically no heat for it, I was very impressed with. And so that is the kind of, like, those are the major indicators for me that are more indications of future performance. So like, and we'll talk about this when I talk about Sue as well, where Sue, who was in a good spot, never really challenged, I was like, she's doing so well. But then the second she was challenged, she did not live up to the challenge. She did not do well in the face of that challenge. And so for me, that is a poor indication, or a good indication of poor performance in the future for somebody like Sue. Honestly, I could have come close to giving Sheldon a 9 for the killer position that he is in. However, because I've seen some things I wasn't sure about and didn't love in the past, I do feel like I can't give him a 9 yet. If the season had continued and he had stayed in this good spot and he had managed the situation where the two sides go after each other and he still remains in the middle and doesn't get caught, then I do think he would have gone up to a 9. I think that's, again, like, that's kind of where Tyler was at. And I do feel like he was approaching that level of aligned with everyone that Tyler was. But unfortunately for him, the season's over. And so he'll never get a chance to prove that he is up there. And so I'm stuck at an 8 for him now. And so that's where I am at. Brent, what were your thoughts?
I'm glad to hear you say that, because I really felt like this was the week that I, quote unquote, got Sheldon. Like, I really understood him. Mm-hmm. I felt like I could see the through line for him to what he's trying to do in the game, where the pieces are lined up. You take out, even though it was unfortunate, 2 pieces in Jamar and Kyle, it is just fantastic to me to see the path that was in front of him and what he was doing. I really kept pinching myself going, are you sure that is there something that you're missing? You haven't really warmed up to Sheldon before, so why all of a sudden do you feel so great about him now? And I think the reason I feel great about him, or did feel great about him, was because of the fact that he won HOH again. And so many other players would be so tempted to be like, you know what, I need to do some baller move. I need to make something with my HOH. I need to do something. And Sheldon recognized that it was time to step off the gas. Mm-hmm. And even though it sucked to use his HOH for Carroll, that he was ostensibly doing it for the good of the house, but he was also doing it for the good of his game. I mean, Carroll and Min were the perfect patsy nominees for Sheldon as HOH. He realized he had no business in winning the HOH, but he also got a little lucky in that Hira goes out and wins the veto the same week. So he has 2 comp wins. People are looking at him as a potential comp beast. Chris has 2 comp wins. So people are looking at Chris as well. So it's not just about Sheldon. And even that, he also gets a little lucky in that some people, for whatever reason, do not care for Brooke, and they think of her as the more alpha in the relationship. I mean, talk about set up, honey. It was looking really good. So I was between a 7 and an 8, and I also pulled the trigger and gave him an 8.
Yes. Some people were asking about Tyler. Tyler was getting 9s and 8s right from the get-go. In fact, week 1, he got a 9 total. I gave him a 9 twice in a row, week 1 and 2. Tyler, I believe, remains our highest rated player ever over the course of the season. So
That's
going to be hard to top.
It really is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I also feel like the difference for me with Tyler was that he was playing against a bunch of really bad players or players who I didn't have any faith in. So it was like he was like heads and tails above everybody else. He was way higher than everybody. Whereas, and I just didn't see a situation where like anyone comes after him or anybody like ends up being able to get him. Whereas with Sheldon, I do feel like there are other really strong players in the house who could recognize that Sheldon's doing this and who do have the opportunity or could have the opportunity to take him down. And so that's why, like, for me, Tyler was rated higher just because it was like, there was no chance for like, I mean, no one else had a shot against him because everyone was so snowed by him. But I don't necessarily think that's the case with Sheldon just because the house, I think that like, if we're rating them as players outside of this individual like week, this individual game, and we're just rating their game ability generally, I do feel like they're more even. But for me, Sheldon, while I do think he's a great player, and while I was very impressed with his ability to kind of pick himself up after losing 2 allies this week, and also win a second HOH, which I didn't think was a good idea, but still be able to like parlay that into something else where he was like making more relationships with people and not like rocking the boat and all that sort of stuff. I do feel good about Sheldon's game. So I am going to give him a 7. When I had given him a 5 last week, but I don't think that should be indicative of like, oh, Tyler's a much better player than Sheldon because at this point Tyler was ranked higher. It's different because I'm also looking at the rest of the house.
Yes, for sure, and that's why at the wrap up roundtable, that's when we'll give them a rating that's a little bit more independent of the season and the situation that they were in. So maybe for you that will be a different rating.
Right.
But yeah, I'm also getting questions. Just because we're talking about historical data here for the stock watch. We started giving numerical ratings on Big Brother 20, I believe. That was the first time we did it. So previous to that, obviously, we have no data. And then people were asking, they were surprised that Anthony and Dane didn't get higher ratings than Tyler. I think that just the explanation for that is that, one, we were wrong and we didn't have faith in the Pretty Boys at the start of the game. So it took a little bit for us to warm up to them. And then also, I think they kind of held each other back in the ratings a little bit, where Tyler was like a very clear front runner with Casey as kind of like a distant second throughout the entire game. With Anthony and Dane, we weren't really sure which one was going to come out on top. And also Adam was a pretty not too far distant third as a dark horse. So I think that held them off from those like really high ratings because there was like there's too many contenders to really go up there. But that's how things go. Anyway, the audience has given Sheldon a 7 out of 10. They agree with Melissa.
Right.
All right, let's move on to Brooke. Let's talk about Brooke. Brooke, who in a similar-ish spot as Sheldon, but we've talked about how we don't have quite as much faith in her. Melissa, what are your thoughts on Brooke?
Yeah, I feel like Brooke is a strong player, but I do feel like people view her as a bigger threat than Sheldon, which maybe they shouldn't, but I do feel like she's kind of got herself out there more than he does. And I have heard some rumblings of people, not liking Brooke as much, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that sometimes the emotional aspect, like, I just feel like sometimes Brooke has a little too much emotion and sometimes Sheldon has a little too little. And I do feel like in the grand scheme of things, the more emotional person might run into more problems than the less emotional person. And I put myself in the way more emotional category. So, I'm not to downplay or not to, talk down on high emotions, but I do feel like that could be a struggle for her as the game keeps progressing. So, I do really like Brooke a lot. And I think that she is a very strong player and I'm very impressed with her. But in terms of comparing her to Sheldon, I think I have to go with a 6.
A 6. I will say for me that for Brooke, I mean, honestly, one of the reasons I was looking at Sheldon as an 8 was because I felt like Brooke, for me, is a little bit above a 6. I feel like Brooke fits the 7 spot for me pretty well. And so a 7 and an 8 for Brooke and Sheldon I felt was appropriate. She is in a good spot with him. She's in the same spot, or a similar one at least. I do think that weirdly, she seems to be the target over Sheldon. Now, that doesn't always mean that that's always going to be the case, that when Sheldon and Brooke are on the block together, if that happens, there's always a chance that somebody might wake up and realize, wait a minute, what are we doing? So it's not always a guarantee that she goes in that spot. And if Sheldon leaves, I think Brooke becomes a heavy favorite to win the game. If she does manage to stay over Sheldon, because then the target completely drops from her and she is free to probably continue what it was that she was doing so well. Again, I feel like her biggest... like the two biggest things in the way of Brooke winning the game. One is Sheldon, although he is also a huge asset in the game. But the other is Vanessa, who continues to just make up lies about Brooke, trying to get her targeted, and seemingly was on track to make the jury. And I really like Vanessa. I really feel like would have just made random stuff up about Brooke in the jury house and poisoned them against her. And I genuinely don't know if Brooke can win a jury vote with Vanessa on the jury. I don't know how possible it is. But that's such a far away prediction from this point in the game that she's still a 7 for me. And I feel like I feel good about that. Brent, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going to give her a 7 as well. I think she is just under Sheldon positioning wise. I think she is just under Sheldon game wise. I think her I would rather be Sheldon in terms of emotion, having a little bit less rather than a little bit too much, because I think that can lead to mistakes on her part. Whereas I feel like if Sheldon doesn't do enough of something, I feel like that he's going to have an opportunity to correct that and do a little bit more of it. But once you do something, sometimes in the Big Brother house, it's hard to take it back. So for those people who are wondering in the chat, they're like, "What's wrong with Brent? Something flew up my nose." So I was like, I kept going out of camera because this bug flew up my nose, and I didn't want to be picking my nose on camera. But yes, I am not like, why is Brent so quiet? I'm like,
you're welcome, audio.
Yeah, I know, right?
Thank listeners.
Yes, thank you. You're welcome. But yeah, I'm gonna give her a 7. She's in a great position. Really one of the best positions in the house. And as Taryn said, if Sheldon goes I don't even know how he goes, but if he goes, I love her chances to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
But Vanessa does have a really weird hard on for her, and I don't know why. It's I'd love to ask her about it. Like if Vanessa comes outside the house and says, "Oh no, I love Brooke."
Oh yeah.
Bullshit.
That's 100% what she's gonna do. I'm gonna ask her about Brooke. Like how did you feel about Brooke? Oh, she was my buddy. I loved Brooke.
Well,
why did you make things up about her? I didn't make things up about her. What are you talking about?
Yeah, what
we need to get to the bottom of Vanessa. We need to have a long form.
I'm gonna need clips ready to go.
Yeah, and literally walk her through each situation. Why? Okay, so why did you say this though? But what was the reasoning behind talking this way about this person that you would?
And then she's gonna be like, "Sorry, my connection. Something's wrong. I'm sorry.
I don't think that's from me. I don't think that was me. It's no, we have it right here."
Right, we're showing her the receipts.
I think you've been minned. I think I think this is the problem.
Listen, that's the thing. When the minute she brings up the min, paddle.
Honestly, though, it sucks because every time I watch Vanessa and Min too, honestly, every time I watch those two, I'm totally taken by them.
They're fun, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm I want to be friends with them. They seem I put myself in the situation of someone in the house. If either of those girls were talking to me, I would be totally taken by them. I'd be absolutely, whatever you say, I want to work with you. I connect with you really well. Let's work together. And I see why Min went right back to Vanessa being look, I still want to work with you even after all that happened. At first I was I don't get it. But then as that conversation kept going, I was okay, I get it. They both have this appeal. They both have this charm. And I don't know what it is, but they seem, when they're talking to you, they seem genuine and they seem like they're just totally on board. And I would be taken by them.
Well, that's the thing too, right? Where if Vanessa does deny these things, she might not even be intentionally lying. I don't even know if she knows. Like, sometimes I don't know if she knows.
Right.
That's the thing. All right. So the audience.
Taryn's basically calling her a crazy person. My words, not his.
The audience decided to give Brooke a 6 out of 10. So there we go with Brooke. Let's move on to Carroll. Let's talk about Carroll. It's a 1 from me.
1 for me.
1.
Thank you.
I said my piece at the beginning.
Yeah, I said my piece. We're done. Yeah.
The audience gave Carroll a 1.
Yay. Good job, guys.
I don't know this for sure. Hopefully Christina can help us with this one. I'm reasonably positive that this is the lowest rating the audience has ever given out. It's about a 1.15. And that 95% of people that rated Carroll gave her a 1 out of 10. So that is...
Well, that's what you get when you quit.
Yeah.
And you waste our time.
All right, let's talk about Min. Min, who should have been evicted twice, but who knows where things would have gone for her this week. Brent, what are your thoughts?
I was actually waiting to see, what did I give her last week? I think I predicted that the eviction was going to be canceled, right?
Last week you gave her a 2. I was the highest on Min. I gave her a 3.
Yeah, I'm gonna double that this week. I'm gonna give her a 4. I think that her position improved drastically this week. Obviously, she's gonna avoid eviction twice in a row.
It's as drastic as it can be.
I know, right? I'm giving her 4. It's drastic. It's doubled. But you still, at the end of the day, it's Mint. And Min, I love you, but God, you're like me. You're a total wrecking ball sometimes. Like, you don't even know when to shut up. Just shut up. I have no faith in you, because at any given moment, things could be totally fine, and you would just be like, I'm bored. Let's go screw something up. Let's go push somebody's buttons. I can see her doing that, like, because she's just fucking bored. Stop doing that, Min. At least now she won't have the chance to. But yeah, it's a 4 for me.
Yeah, 4 for me as well. I love Min. I absolutely love her. She's like one of my favorite characters that's ever been on Big Brother.
Yes.
But she's so erratic. You don't know what's coming next. And I don't know. I don't even know if she thinks she's erratic. Like, I just feel like she thinks she's like making the right moves, but she would have been gone last week. She might have been gone this week, and both times didn't happen. So, I mean, I'm very glad that it didn't happen, but at the same time, it doesn't really instill a lot of faith in me in terms of gameplay.
Melissa, I really want Sandra Diaz-Twine to go to Min and say, loose lips sink ships.
Seriously. I know.
I don't know if Sandra's the best advocate for that right now. So yeah, last week I gave Min a 3, but that was in part because I was already pricing in the fact that she might stay with a canceled eviction. So so my change probably not quite as dramatic because I was already like halfway there. So I agree with you. I'm moving up from a 3 to a 4 as well with Min Lee. And the audience agreed. They also gave her a 4 this week.
4.
There you go. Let's talk about Rianne. I just looked at the audience rating.
Oh, really?
We'll start with that one because it was really funny. It just jumped out to me. Rianne, 5.0 on the dot.
Honestly, that's how I feel.
Yeah, that's what the audience wanted.
I like her a lot, but I don't know. I don't really know how I feel, because I like, as a person, I like her, whatever, all that. I think she can do well, but I do feel like she hasn't really done anything yet. And also, I do feel like people are still looking at her as a target just because, she is athletic. She is, she comes across as intelligent. And, I could see a situation where if they have to pick between Maddie and Rianne, they're going to be like, well, Rianne's a bigger threat. Get rid of her. And so if she's sitting there being compared with Maddie all the time, I could absolutely see her going first. But I do think that she's smart. And I do like the way, she talks about the upcoming weeks in the game and everything like that. And so I like her, but I feel very neutral on her. So yeah, 5 makes sense to me.
You know how in Survivor they talk about your threat level? You have to manage your threat level. There was a time when Rianne's threat level was significantly more in my eyes than what it is now at
true.
this point in the game. So in that respect, her game has improved. But I agree with your assessment, Melissa, that she hasn't really done anything. And I feel like she's also, in some ways, easily snowed by some people who are better players than her, like Sheldon and Brooke, and maybe not as easily snowed by other people who she is able to see through. So on balance, she's a pretty average player. She's like, as Ian Terry would say, replacement level player in Big Brother. So I'm gonna give her. It's so close. I gave her. I think I gave her a 6 last week because I was assigning attributes to her that I have not yet seen in another week's time. But this week has been so standstill that it's really hard to assess that. So I'm gonna go down to a 5, but not any further.
This could be a first because she was on the block last week, right?
Yes, for the first part of the week.
Yeah, you gave her a 6 last week on the block.
Yeah,
right?
but I knew she wasn't going home. It was either Min was going home or the eviction was canceled.
I agree with you. I'm not saying it was a wrong thing. It's just crazy that in the season, somebody on the block had a higher rating, and then the next week they're not on the block, and it's like, it makes sense, lower rating. I mean, everybody else was just playing better, and I could see the paths for other people, but I could not see the path as well for Also, like, and this is maybe my bias. She's really bland. She's really boring. Like, and not in a fun way. Not like in a Sheldon way where we can make fun of him and have a good time with it. It's just like, I don't even know what Rob would do with Rianne if he had to talk about her on a podcast. Oh my God. Yeah. Melissa did say a 5, I believe. We're being asked in the chat. And then Christina is in the chat. I don't know if she answered the other questions because I didn't see them, but she's trying to figure out if this is the first time that somebody went down from being on the block and then not. But yes, I agree with you guys. It's a 5 for me. I did think about going for a 6 on Rianne, just because I think she's got like at least 2 weeks of buffer time from where she is right now. But just like, I don't know where I see her path to win. And I still don't have a lot of faith in her as a player. And when I look at all of the people surrounding her, Hira, JL, Maddie, I think all 3 of those people are more likely to win the game. Maddie because she's less likely to be targeted than Rianne, and JL and Hira because they're more respected and have some more instincts strategically than she does, and so she's kind of my least favorite of the 4 in that regard. But Christina says, I can tell you that Rianne had the 5th highest ever average rating for somebody on the block. So there you go. All right,
pretty good. Let's
move on to Maddie. Let's talk about Maddie. I'll go first with Maddie. She, like I said, I could easily see her in the end game. Nobody's coming for her. I think her biggest problem is, can she win a vote? I think that Melissa outlined her best case scenario, which is that she's in there with somebody that they're pissed at, which is, I think, a possibility with the kinds of jurors that we might be looking at here. She does have great social, not great social, not as great as somebody like Hira or JL, or she has the least amount of social connections of the evictors, plus Hira. But I can see her getting far, and that goes a long way. I'm not quite ready to go up into like positive territory for Maddie either. So for me, Maddie is also a 5. Melissa,
Same here.
You both agree?
Yeah, we both agree. Yeah, for those reasons. I mean, like, I can't give her a higher score than a 5, in my view, because she's not one of the major players in the game. And even though I do agree with your assessment that if they're both placed on the block, that Rianne is the person who would go home over Maddie, but there's also the possibility that Rianne can win the veto. And then they're so close together that I think that Maddie is definitely in danger if that happens. And she doesn't, at this point in the game, Maddie and Rianne and JL didn't seem to be as highly thinking as Sheldon and Brooke, like, as far as the game goes. Like, they just weren't up to speed. Like, if Sheldon and Brooke are on a 10, then and Maddie and friends are at like a 6 or a 5. Like, they're getting there, but they're not really there at all.
So Maddie has she did an Instagram live. She just got home today. That they all just left today. And in her Instagram live, she talked about how when they were told that it's time to go home, everybody talked about all of the alliances. And I think we mentioned this before. And when she said that, she was like, they were all talking. Like they all had like 10 different alliances.
Yeah.
Like. What? I was so confused. And like I was just like, am I the only one who was in a loyal like alliance to each other? And she was talking to Michael, who was like, yeah, they had this big chart of like all these different alliances, and then it was like all 4 victors just sitting in a corner by themselves. And she was like, yeah, I just feel like we're the most loyal alliance ever, and so that made us strong. And I was like, you still don't get this game.
It's like, it's not about loyalty. It's about like all the various connections. Like those connections are good. Those aren't it's not good to be off on your own island.
Yeah. Just stop talking because we love you right now.
I know it's like, we love Maddie. Yeah. We love Maddie. That's the thing is like, I would have loved to have seen Maddie. Like, you know how sometimes there's just like the light bulb moment where it's like, you hear something or you see something or someone like takes someone off the block and you're like, wait, what? And then all of a sudden it clicks and you're like, oh my God, all these alliances, all these things are happening around me. And it's like, you see like the numbers and everything like flying around your head because you're just like, oh my God, like it's all starting to add up. And I could absolutely see a moment like that for Maddie where all of a sudden things switch and she just like turns it on and gets the game. It hasn't happened yet, but I could have seen that happening. So I don't think that she's a bad player or anything like that. I just do think that like we haven't seen her full potential yet.
Doom has it right in the chat. Even though this is what Doom says. He says, I hate that Maddie is popular because she is the worst type of Big Brother player. And like the worst type of big player that he's describing is basically my best type of Big Brother player, like the Ericas, the Rachel.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. She would have made a great underdog.
Yeah, she would have made a great robbed goddess. Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but
can't
because
you
of
imagine
that,
this
she's a
scenario?
terrible player.
Oh my God, I absolutely imagine this scenario. Another vision, guys. Basically, all the evictors get taken out. And she's like, what the heck is going on here? Like, I thought I was in good. And then all of a sudden it switches and she's like, she turns into like Rambo revenge mode and is like, I get it. Everyone was against me this whole time. Like, I'm going to go and I'm going to do this. And she's the underdog and we're all rooting for her. And she gets down to the final 2. And I see it, guys. I see it.
Would that be your path if you played?
I would hope not, but I would see that happening for me. Like, I feel like if I didn't know the game this well, it probably would be my path just because like I would assume that like everyone's being genuine with me. Now, if I were to go in knowing the game, that probably wouldn't be me. Like I would definitely probably end up being an underdog. I would think just because like that would likely be my thing. But I don't know if I'd be so trusting in the beginning. I probably would be less trusting in the beginning. So.
Yeah, you'd be like a Maddie, but knowledgeable.
Right,
that's a good spot to be.
Yeah, I think so.
And no showmance, right?
Yeah, no showmance, no way.
Yeah,
not happening.
That's a big one. That's important.
Yeah, you can't have that. Can't have that.
All right. The audience agreed with us. They gave Maddie a 5 as well. I saw somebody in the chat say that that Rianne's final stock price is going to be $5. Exactly. Which is perfect. All right, let's move on to John Luke. John, who was the best buy last week. That the people that bought John Luke stock were the people who made the most amount of money. I do like John Luke. I do like him. There are some issues. There are long-term issues and short-term issues.
Yeah.
But I still like him.
I mean, like somebody like Vanessa, who's Crazy Pants, was like totally going after him. And also the fact that of the 3 of them, I think he is the guy that, even though Sheldon and Brooke might want to protect him, they don't have a lot vested in him. Like if people are coming for I keep saying Jean-Luc.
Jean-Luc.
There's 2 Jean-Lucs in my life. There's Jean-Luc Picard and there's Jean-Luc Baker in figure skating. And like both of those people, I just like, I've said those names forever. And so it's very hard for me to say Jean-Luc. John Luke or JL, because I always said John Luke. JL, I felt like of the 3 of them, he was the most vulnerable. And as I said, people didn't have a lot of capital invested in him. Okay, so I still felt not great about him. And I'm just looking at him. He is a jacked dude. You're never going to let a guy like that get to the end of the game. What did I give him last week? Was it a 4? I think it was a 4. So I'm gonna give him a 4 again.
Last week you did give him a 4. You were the lowest on Jean-Luc.
Yeah, and I continue to be probably this
you
week.
Probably will continue to be. I gave him a 6. I feel overall the best about him, even though I think that Maddie is likely to go further than Jean-Luc. I think that Jean-Luc just has a much better chance of winning if he gets to the end, and is probably going to have an easier time winning some of the competitions where like he's both physically capable and mentally capable. He was really good at the studying for the Expedia board that never came into play. That's useless knowledge forever that they have now.
Oh my God, I'm so mad.
But I think he could have been a contender in these competitions. I think he had a shot to get close enough to where that would start to matter. I like I said, he does have some short-term problems. Vanessa wants to go after him. He does have some long-term problems. He trusts Sheldon and Brooke too much. But I think that he was uniquely positioned to have a shot in ways that some of the others weren't. And I do feel like he was a little bit savvier strategically than Maddie or Rianne. So that's how I saw Jean-Luc. Melissa, what about you?
Yeah, same. I mean, I felt like he was doing a really good job socially and kind of making connections with people outside of his evictors group. Even though he, was seen as a possible like physical threat target, I do feel like he was making inroads with people, and people would be less likely to target him than they originally would have. So I was pretty impressed with his ability this week, and also just like his strategic knowledge. So I gave him a 6 as well.
All right. The audience agrees with us on this one. They also gave him a 6, which means that Brent has been outvoted.
I've been tracking with the audience the whole time.
Oh, you really have.
Voice of the people.
Melissa, I believe Christina tweeted this stat out recently that you have been the closest to the audience, or maybe it was further out than recently. But yep. I do believe Melissa is usually the closest to the audience consensus.
Voice of the people. They don't call me Melissa Voice of the People Denny for nothing.
Anybody call you that?
It's a little bit of a long nickname, but
Yeah. Let's talk about Angie. I have been consistently the highest on Angie. I've given her 4s the last 2 weeks, and it's not changing. I'm gonna give her another 4 here. I mean, she's still not doing great, but she's still not going anywhere anytime soon, and would have had a long time to do something with her game at some point. I do think she is a more capable and she's a more capable player than somebody like, think about somebody like Kira from last season, who they were in a similar spot where you knew they were going to go really far, but we were very down on their capabilities as a player. I think that Angie is smarter strategically than Kira was. Angie's problem is that socially she just doesn't fit in, and neither did Kira all that much, but at least Kira had some ins, and so that's where Angie's running into problems. But the thing is, once the game starts narrowing down and you have fewer and fewer options of people to talk to and socialize with, you start to make bonds with these kinds of Angie players that you might not have had before. And if that's the case, and she has some kind of strategic mind on her, then I could see something happening here. But again, this is something. It's because it's so far out. I just feel like I'm not quite as low as a 3, but it's not also a positive rating or even a neutral one at this point, because the chances are still pretty low. So. Angie and JL, no, I don't think they're the same level, and that's why I put JL as a 6 and Angie as a 4. So, Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm giving Angie a 3 because I haven't really seen an improvement in her game or her position in the game, and I don't really have the faith that she'll be able to pull it off as the game progresses. So I don't know. I don't see a win for her. And that's why I'm going to give her a 3.
Yeah, it's a 3 from me. Look, she's just not playing the same game that other people are playing. And even if she gets to the end, she hasn't been playing the same game that other people are playing. I don't think there's any chance that she could really win the game if she got to the end. So, yeah, it's a 3.
So it's going to be same exact ratings as last week, actually. 4-3-3, and the audience is a 4 with me.
See, I knew I had to say the voice of the people before Andy because I see this one going another direction, so I had to say it real quick.
There you go. There you go. All right, let's move on to Hira. Man, I love Hira. I do. But he was in a little bit of trouble in the near future, and so I think that that could have been an issue for him. Melissa, what are your thoughts?
This one's tough because I feel like I have more confidence in his strategic ability, but the fact that he won the veto and people are really seeing him, as a physical threat when maybe they wouldn't have seen him that way before, that makes me a little nervous. I don't know. It's hard because I have a rating I want to give him, but I feel like I'm worried about his positioning because I do see him as a person that they might just be like, we got to get rid of him. He's the one person he keeps winning these vetoes. Like, he's very physical and he's intelligent. We got to get rid of him. But because he's intelligent, like, it's like a double-edged sword. It's like, because he's intelligent and because he's so physical, I could see him not going home and doing better. So I'm a little torn on this, but I do think I want to give him a 6.
Yeah, I've been torn on Hira as well. Like, I want to give Hira like a 7 because like, as a player, I feel like he is approaching a 7. He's good at competitions. He's good strategically. He's got the best head on his shoulders in terms of like recognizing the long-term threat of Sheldon and Brooke, and even recognizing that now is probably not the time to talk about it, although that may just be me putting things into his head because he hasn't really expressed it. But he's kind of hinted toward it. And so like, I want to give him a 7, but his position in the house is really dragging him down, because not only is he the main target of Chris, who is likely to win a competition in the near future, but also Sheldon and Brooke see him. It's like Akbar on Ninja Warrior, that he sees them. I see you. And
I see you. Yeah,
yes,
that's how you say it. Yeah.
I see you. And it's unfortunate for Hira because if he wasn't being seen by them, I feel like this could be a good spot for him, and he could be their biggest threat in the long term. But I think they're because they're seeing him and they're able to see the long-term threat that he poses. It puts him in even more danger. And like I said, I think that they really could do a lot of damage to him if he goes on the block. Even if Vanessa wins the HOH and puts up like JL and Hira or whatever it was that she wanted to do, which was lots of different things. But like, I could see them trying to like subtly shift it over to Hira, using Chris as a battering ram, as the bull, to make it happen. And so I didn't love that. And so like, that brings me down to like a 6, maybe even a 5, because I think he's one of the more likely people to leave next week if the season continues. And so I'm kind of stuck between 5 and 6, where it's like, and ultimately I have to, I think, and this might be one of the times where I'm being influenced by the fact that we're not seeing the future week. Like, if we did, I might be like 5, but there's a chance it goes up. But like, I'm going to give him a 6.
Oh my God.
That's how I felt.
You guys are smoking crack. There's no
Brent
way.
gave him a 3 last week. Brent not high on here.
True. He doesn't get it.
You're right. I don't get it. I don't get what you're seeing. There's one guy who's ostensibly coming after him. There are 2 other people who are onto his game. I don't think that anybody, even the people who are aligned with him currently, are going to let a guy like that, a family man, get to the end of the game. I just don't see it. And he's just not on the same level strategy-wise as other people. He has evolved to a more enlightened place, but he is not there. And I don't think that even at his best, he's going to get there. So it is still a 3 for me. Sorry, I'm the Russian judge.
I mean, I think you're fair in being harsher on Hira, but I do think 3 is a little low. But
you just said he could be evicted. You recognize that he could be evicted next week.
Yeah, you know.
Oh, okay.
But there isn't going to be a next week.
Well,
so.
I mean, like, we're judging this as
like I gave Min a 3 when she could have been evicted that week had the eviction not been canceled. So that's where my scale is at. All right. So
I love him though. I love him. There's no part of me that really thought he ever had a chance to win this game. There's going to come a time where they all look at him and go, we can't let him get to the end. Like, that's just not going to happen.
It's fair. All right. Well, the audience did agree with Melissa and myself. They gave him a 6 out of 10. Once again, audience disagreeing with Brent and agreeing
that
with
was even
us.
worse than Jean-Luc, because Jean-Luc, it was like 6664. This one is 6663.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, well.
Let's talk Sue. Let's talk about Sue. And I can't remember if I went first last time, so I'm just going to say, Brent.
Okay.
What do you think about Sue?
Yeah, boy. Honey. As somebody, spoiler alert, I bought all the Sue stock in the world.
Uh-oh.
I don't understand what she's like. I don't know. I'm not. I can't even talk. Like, Sue, I started her at like a 7, I think, and then I came down. Like last week, I'm like, you know what? And the reason I bought here's the thing. The reason I bought her at a 7 is because I'm like, even if she messes up a little bit, I feel like she'll just come down to a 6, and she'll still make a nickel in the stock market. I thought it was a good buy, so I did it. This week, I looked at the projections, and because she would have been, like, if she would have maintained a 6 again, which she's not going to do, she would have had the opportunity to, the interest starts to compound upon itself by the way this market works. Like, if you stay in the green, meaning 6 and above, you continue to make money, and your price can get astronomically high. So she would have had, like, if she could have just stayed in the green just a little bit, which, we'll see what the other scores are, she could have really made some money this week. And I have to believe other people were thinking the same way. But my God, somebody who literally, not only is she playing subpar in a house full of people that are playing pretty well, but also she's playing with people who know that when she's making mistakes, to let her make mistakes. I was never more shocked when I saw Sue trying to get the votes together to get Min out of the house this week and keep Carroll in the game, which would have been an absolute broadside against half the house who wasn't in on the plan. And Sheldon correctly recognized with Brooke, hey, like, even though they were like, their first inclination was to stop it. Then he's like, I've been thinking, and like, we should just like let this happen. Like, who cares what happens with Sue? Like, she doesn't even have their loyalty anymore.
Yeah. There's not a single person that cares.
Yeah. I mean,
it's not good.
I mean, like, I want to give her some credit for, I don't want to, like, there was something there to start. So it's still there.
Right.
She has a pretty good social game. People enjoy her company. So it's like balancing that. Basically, I'm between a 3 and a 4 right now, just to be honest. Here's the thing. I saw her personality get a little bit out of control this week. And if not for other people, I think it might have gotten more out of control. So I'll give her a 3.
There you go, Melissa.
Yeah, I feel a little better about Sue than you do. But I do see where you're coming from, and I do agree with you. But I do still have faith that she has a good social game. And I do think that she does have good strategic ability. I just think that she is a little off right now, just a little like snowed, but I've seen her do well. And I've seen her, especially with the social aspect, I could see a situation where maybe she recognizes like who's with who and everything as the game progresses, and then is able to like be like, oh my God, and do the turnaround. But obviously this was not a super great week for her, although I don't think it's that devastating.
Yeah, she could have come back from this. She could have.
Yeah, that's the thing is like, we're not going to see her come back from this, but I absolutely could see a situation where she does come back from this. I don't think this is like, oh, her game is dead in the water, it's over for her.
I agree.
So like, that's why I don't feel necessarily comfortable going that low for her. I am going to take her score down, but not that much, just because I do still have faith. So I'm going to give her a 5.
Yeah, that's where I'm at as well. Where I feel like I was very, like I said, she has faced adversity now. She is facing adversity. She was in a fine position before. The only other time she faced adversity was in the first week where we didn't have feeds, but we did see that she did kind of blow up. And then we didn't see that version of Sue for a little while. And now we're seeing her face adversity again, and again, she's blowing up and doing things that are not good for her game, which gives me very little faith in her as a player when faced with adversity. That said, it hasn't overly harmed her yet. Now, she's a target of Min's when she absolutely doesn't need to be and shouldn't have been, and that's really bad. And if Min won the HOH, she probably would go home. But that's only one person. And she could be a pawn, and that could put her in danger. But other than that, like, nobody cares if she stays, but nobody also cares if she goes. Nobody cares to target her. Nobody cares to save her. So I don't have a lot of faith in her as a player right now, but her position is still not so dire that I think that she's like completely in the red at the moment. And she does have a chance to would have had a chance to do something moving forward. So I'm also at a 5, which I believe, yeah. So like I gave her a 7 the first week, 6 the second week, 5 this third week. It's just continuing to go down as my faith in her as a player drops, as her position in the house drops. And
just really quickly before you give the audience, Tracy in the chat says, really, y'all gave Sue a 7 the first week? Yeah, Tracy. She not only had the loyalties of a large percentage of the house, she was in multiple alliances. People enjoyed her company. She wasn't a crazy pants yet. I mean, yeah, she was feisty, but she wasn't crazy. So, I mean, I think she totally earned that 7. I loved her position early in the house. And if the, I forget what that 6-person alliance they were in called. If Carroll hadn't been dead weight, yes, 6 feet under. If they hadn't been dead weight, and it, and KBBS, if it hadn't really taken off as much as it did, I really enjoyed Sue's position early in the game.
Yeah, I will say, Brent, I almost did what you did. I almost went in on Sue this week, but I did make a different decision. So the audience, for the third time, agrees with Melissa and myself, and Brent is down there below. The audience says a 5 for
very extreme.
Sue.
If I don't like, boy, if you're on my bad side, watch out. I know people who are betting the stock market. They're like, "What's Brent gonna do? Like, oh my god, I gotta avoid the ones that Brent hates. Who does Brent hate? Like,
it's true. It's true.
What's he doing with Vanessa?"
You always have to think, like, what are Brent's thoughts on this person? Sometimes your thoughts change, and that makes a big swing, like what happened here with Sheldon. All right, so let's talk about Chris. Oh boy, Chris, what a guy here. I feel that Chris, can he win the game if the game was still happening? I think that he could if he got there. I do think it's possible. I think that there's enough like earnestness in him that like his creepiness can sometimes like it contends with it, and sometimes the earnest stuff wins and sometimes the creepy wins. But I do feel like if he got there, he could win. I think his problem is getting there. I think that he has 4 people locked in to target him, and they will never change that opinion for the rest of the game because he took out Michael, and how dare he. And so unless him and Vanessa and their side wins a bunch and just is able to decimate the other side, I just have a hard time seeing him survive. Maybe he can win a couple of vetoes here and there, but he's really going to have to struggle to survive. And that's going to be an issue for him. He is one of the more likely people to go home next week without the upside that Hira has, in my view. And so for me, I gave Chris a 3. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky because I do feel like he's made some inroads with certain players, but then other players are still targeting him and he's still a major target. So I feel like while he is like doing fairly well on half of the social aspect, the other half is still
Which
not
that's Big
doing
Brother. Yeah, like I mean,
Right.
I think like Big Brother 6 in the United States, where like half the house likes you, but the other half
Right.
absolutely hates you. And like how long is that? How long are you gonna last? You can only slide so far on barbed wire before you get caught.
Exactly. I just like he's the target next week. He's gonna be the target the week after that, and the
Right.
week after
It's
that
like
until he
anytime they
finally
win.
leaves. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see a situation where he's like turning it around and he's not the target and people forget about him.
Exactly.
Like I do think that like he's such a big personality, and also that's an easy thing for the evictors to lock onto. Like, oh, he evicted our friend Michael. Like he was the one who targeted us first. Like we would have had this 4-person alliance. Now that's over. And anytime they win, they're going to be seeing, we got to get rid of Chris. It's not going to be like, let's direct our attention somewhere else first. So I do think that that's a problem for Chris. And I also feel like if it comes down to it, the people who Chris is working with would be like, yeah, take him. Like, don't take me. Like if you're going to target someone on this side, take Chris. That's fine. Like, I don't see any of them like sticking their neck out and being like, no, we need Chris. Like we have to figure out a way to make this work, So I do feel like that's not super great. He's not in such a great position. So I was at a 5 last week, and I am going to go down to a 4 this week.
Yeah, but by the way, there's some people coming into chat late. Just really quickly, I mean, it's been a while since we started, so we're judging everybody as if the game was still going right now. We're giving our final scores. I think our final scores in the stop. We may give one final score. Yeah,
which count for the stock watch. We'll do a post-season, truly post-season wrap up where we give the players scores independent of everything else. We rate them as players as a whole, as opposed to how they were doing in this particular week.
Yeah, but this is just a wrap up, and trying to come to terms with the fact that Big Brother, and where an accurate view of where the game was at the time that it ended.
Yeah,
it's like we're not kidding ourselves. We're not delusional. We're not thinking that the show is still going on.
And I'm speaking
like we're just having fun. Like
I'm speaking in present tense because I don't like going back and forth between present and past. So I'm just like, like to me, it's just like it's easier to just evaluate things in a present tense atmosphere.
Yes. All right, Brent, what are your thoughts on Chris?
The
bull.
Basically, you guys. I mean, like again, like and not to mention his absolute physical presence. He is an absolute beast. There were a lot of beasts. When Kyle left, I feel like that was Chris's Waterloo. When Kyle left, because there was nobody else to hide behind.
Yep.
Like he's going to get put up on the block until he finally leaves. He's going to win a veto. He might win 2. He might win an HOH, but he's not going to make it to the end of the game. There's just no way. He would need some fantastic, Brooke Sheldon split from Vanessa blow up with, Maddie, and there's something crazy pants to happen. But even then, I have a hard time believing that people are not going to look at Chris and go, we all need to come together and get him out. Like, so yeah, it's crazy. It's a 3 for me.
3 for Brent. The audience is with Melissa on this one. They gave him a 4. So there you go. It's a 4 for Chris. Let's move on to Vanessa, our final player here to rate, because Kyle and Jamar both gone, as well as, of course, Michael. So let's talk about Vanessa.
I can't believe there's only 3 people gone, by the way.
Well, Nico also, but he was never rated at all, so he never made the board. Let's start with you on Vanessa. You have given Vanessa the paddle 2 weeks running.
Yes.
Where do you stand on her this week?
Okay, I finally feel better about Vanessa. She settled down some. Okay. Now, as Taryn was talking about, I can't remember what update you were referring to. You were like, I had missed this. It finally came back. Like her incredible dislike for Brooke that seems to come out of nowhere for no reason whatsoever. And then it goes away, and then it's like, oh, did it happen? Yeah, it happened because she just told someone something about Brooke. She made up shit, or she said something about Brooke that she wasn't supposed to say. She was in an alliance with Brooke and Sheldon, ostensibly because they wanted to make sure that they don't get targeted by Vanessa. That is the only reason why she was in an alliance with them anymore. They really don't trust her. They really don't care about her. It was just a literal, like, put your thumb in the dike to make sure that it doesn't blow up on you. That was what the Brooke and Sheldon were doing there. However, she has settled down, and I see more. The reason I kept giving her 1s, the reason why I gave her another 1 last week, is because I was convinced that even she could not explain to me why she was in an alliance with Brooke and Sheldon. They really don't trust her. They really don't care about her. It was just a literal, like, put your thumb in the dike to make sure that it doesn't blow up on you. That was what the Brooke and Sheldon were doing there. However, she has settled down, and I see more. The reason I kept giving her 1s, the reason why I gave her another 1 last week, is because I was convinced that even she could not explain to me what she was doing. It was literally like someone with like, did you guys ever see I Am Legend? And there was a point in time where the Dark Seeker moves the mannequin to the street. Like he moves the mannequin, like the mannequin moves, right? And Will Smith thinks he's going crazy. And so he gets his rifle out. He just starts shooting at everything, right? And I feel like that's what Vanessa was in the game, because she was just shooting randomly at people. Some people who were in her alliance, some people were not in her alliance. And she was just like, literally, Vanessa was like Will Smith and I Am Legend. She was like, Fred! No! So like I could not understand anything that she was doing, and because of that, I had to give her the lowest score possible. Okay, but as time has gone on, I have understood her, much like Sheldon. I'm like just like the bourbons. I come around, right? So I finally understand Sheldon, and I finally get Vanessa to a certain extent, and because of that, I'm going to give her a 3. That's a long-winded way of saying I'm going to give her a 3. I still don't love her game. She doesn't know when to shut up, and she'll randomly throw allies under the bus when she shouldn't have. But I think she's in a. I cannot deny her position anymore. Chris in the chat is like 8. No, I cannot deny her position is better than her gameplay at this point, and because of that, I will give her a 3.
Yeah, I've given Vanessa 2 3s in a row, and I actually am higher on Vanessa this week, mainly because she's been behaving herself a lot more. She's been doing some weird things.
Thank you. Yes,
but mostly it's not been super weird. Like if I was looking at Vanessa with fresh eyes, I'd be like, why is she doing this? This is really weird. But I wouldn't be like super, like super confused. But with my expectations of Vanessa, I'm like, wow, she's playing completely rationally at this point, based on like compared to what she was doing before. So I feel a little bit better about Vanessa this week than I have in the past. That's I have no faith in her as a player moving forward. Her position in the game is that she is basically, if Chris wins the veto, she's gone next week. She's the second most likely target from that side, and that's not great, but it's not quite as bad as Chris. And if Chris leaves, I could see Vanessa starting to skate by. And being potentially left alone. I don't think it's particularly likely. I think she probably screws herself up somewhere along the line, but I don't have her as low as Chris here, so I gave her a 4.
Fatima Mohammed in the chat asks a fair question. She, I can't tell, says, did she really settle down, or was it just such a stagnant week? I think that is a fair question. But I'm judging the week,
yes.
And the player within the week, and maybe it is a reflection of the fact that the week was so stagnant, and that is why she settled down a little bit. Maybe she's not really this way, but the week sort of forced her to be this way. But you can look at that, and you can look at somebody like Min, who, granted she's on the block, but she's supposedly not going anywhere, and she can't help but keep her mouth going, like the Energizer Bunny. So I'll give Vanessa a little credit for buckling down and keeping her mouth shut just for a little bit of time.
There you go, Melissa.
Yeah, I mean, last week I gave Vanessa a 2, and I think my main, I think my main reason for ranking her so low, I mean, in addition to all the craziness that we already knew about her, was because during that house meeting, she made very clear that she was tied to Kyle. Like, it was the two of them and everyone else is out, and she's been lying to everyone. And I did not think that was a good move to, tie herself to like that sinking anchor. But then Kyle left, and now she's not tied to that anymore. And I do think that she handled that pretty well. This week. Am I freezing? I feel like I'm freezing.
No, I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, good. Because the video keeps freezing. So I'm like, oh, am I losing it? But I do think that she handled the situation really well and came out, I think, in a decent spot now that Kyle's gone. I mean, she was hitched to Kyle. Now it does seem a little bit like she's hitched to Chris, but I think that's better for her than being hitched to Kyle at this point. So I feel a little bit better about her, especially because she's not going crazy this week. And the fact that, people, like I said earlier, like people are drawn to her when they talk to her. Like, I mean, at least I would be. And so I could see her doing well socially as the game progresses and being able to convince people of things. And so that's why I'm going to go up from a 2 to a 3 this week.
There you go. And I've seen some people. I'm going to be the highest on her this week, I think. And so I also want to say that, like, because there are some people in the chat. They're like, well, what about, like, she's won Min back over? I don't think she's won Min back over. I think that they're both playing each other at this point. And Min does not tell Vanessa everything anymore, which is a big step for Min, because she tells people she doesn't trust things. And Min has kind of clocked Vanessa and the kind of game that she's played. Maddie also has clocked Vanessa in terms of how she lied about the Brooke throwing the veto thing, and all of that. And so I think that Vanessa is going to have a hard time getting herself back into as good of a position as she was in back when we were rating her lower. So I think the difference here is that she's not actively sabotaging herself anymore, but her position is actually worse than it was before, by a decent margin. So I did go up on her, but only because I think that her position is a little more stable now, where before it could have just instantly all come crashing down on her. Now it's looking like she's got a chance here to move forward in some kind of way. But the audience said, the audience was with the audience was with you guys. They gave her a 3 out of 10. So I actually was the highest on Vanessa this week. Wouldn't you know? All right. So that's it. That is the final in-game Stockwatch ratings for
just be
Big
clear,
Brother Canada 8.
Yes, even though we're going to rate people next week overall, like, this is the end for this season. So
yes,
whatever when we turn the page and turn on the simulator and see a winner, that will be it. Okay.
Yep. Unlike Big Brother Canada 8, we will have a winner of the Stockwatch. There might be a tie. It's actually kind of likely that there'll be some kind of tie, but
that's okay.
We'll see.
We'll recognize the people who did it.
So while we wait for everything to update, I can go over some stats that I have, that in week 2, the most purchased player was, in fact, Suzanne. So
the week that we just got done, like, people.
Yes, this week. Sorry, yeah, this week.
Oh, okay.
The most people did what you did, Brent. They went with Suzanne.
Well, sorry, girls.
The second most purchased player, not too big of a margin here, was Sheldon. So if you were choosing between Sheldon and Sue, like a lot of people probably were, Sheldon was the better call there. Third most purchase player was John Luke, but there's a bit of a margin there. Then another big gap, and then Maddie was actually number 4. So $34,000 total spent on Sue. $29,000 spent on.
I will say
Sheldon.
that, even though I absolutely clobbered her with my score, that you all didn't, and the audience didn't. You guys gave her 5, so, like, the score went 5.553, and because of that, her score averaged out to a 4.5, which rounds up to a 5.
Yes.
So her score. So even though it went 5.553, her average score is still a 5, which is only $1 less than what it was. So I don't think you're going to get your ass kicked.
Yeah, you're not going to lose your your house or anything.
Yeah.
Your fake Stockwatch house.
You might like basically have the same amount of money that you did, like, because, like, it went. It's not positive anymore, but on the other hand, you're not being penalized because it's not negative. So.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And of course, you can find all of this on realitystockwatch.com. That's where you can find everything that we're talking about. If you want to play along next time, the all-time purchasing, Sheldon. For the 2 trading windows, Sheldon was the most purchased player overall, with $63,000 spent on him, with Suzanne as a very close second, $61,000 spent on Sue. So those are some stats. Let's take a look at what we have. Wow. Okay, hold on. Let me pull this up. Here is the refreshed leaderboard And you can see this on the video if you're watching along on YouTube, and we will read out the top 5 here. Can I make it bigger? Yes.
Yeah, zoom in on that. Yeah, zoom a little more.
There you go. So in first place, Tegan with $391.
Wow, just 2 cents more.
70 cents. Just above second place, Jasmine C with $391.68. Then in third place, Prissy Missy
it's so close
with $391.45.
Oh my
Then
God.
Noah Arbs in fourth place with $389.61. And then it looks like myself and Dan W tied for fifth place with $385.50. So it's just a matter of cents separating the top 3.
That's wild.
And then about $6 separating the first place from the top 5, or even down to top 10, all in the same sort of range, in the 380 range. So
And there's our mod, Bill Hall.
there you go, Bill Hall. We've got 2 Things Are Infinite there at a 12th. Let's see, any other any LFC here? Tom Palmer, there's Tom Palmer, 36th place.
Any other notables there?
There's fake Brent Walgamont, who
Fake
apparently
Brent
did better
Walgamont.
than real Brent
Wow.
Walgamont.
Brent, just take the credit. Say that's you.
So let me just check. Obviously, yeah, here's what we see here, that Sheldon, all of the top players chose to purchase Sheldon this week. And our person in first place also, no, they just went all in on Sheldon.
Yeah, they kept the money, whereas the person in second place bought 1 stock of Min Lee.
But
With-
Minnie
Wow.
made money.
Yeah, but I don't know how that works. Like, so
I'm guessing that what happened here is that Tegan purchased John Luke last week, and Jasmine probably purchased like the second most money making person. So I'm guessing here that Tegan played a perfect game. Tegan purchased all John Luke the first time, all Sheldon the second time, and therefore is in the lead here.
I see. Yeah, it's not a reflection of this week. It's a reflection of the whole, basically everything, and they were probably ahead of Jasmine going into this
Yes,
week.
that would be my guess. We will have more detailed information on that in the future. In fact, I think we have like a portfolio or dashboard page that I can show you in a second. But let's just take a look at where Brent Walgamot.
Oh, no. Let's just say you're fake, Brent Walgamont. Just leave it
Thing
at
I
that.
said about Sue. Wow. I lost that much.
1465. Wow, that is surprising.
That's like, isn't there only like 1,500 people competing?
What was her prize? How much money did I lose?
Oh no, Brent.
Do we have? Does anybody have how much money Sue lost here? The projection is no longer there. So I guess it was a decent chunk. Oh, you know what? I think it is, Brent. That
What?
if we look at the, because I was noticing this as we were doing the ratings. When you look at these ratings, almost all of them went up. Very few of them went down. And so I think Sue is just one of the few players that went down. And so everybody else went up, and everyone that went in on Sue went down. Basically,
Okay.
that's what it's.
They're saying that Sue lost 16%.
Yeah, that's
but
not
it's
much
what
at
you
all.
said.
Yeah.
Because I think I had like 220. Like it was my portfolio was like around 220 because I didn't make much with Sue. I made a nickel with Sue last week. And so I bought more of her this week. And then I lost like $40. So I'm at $188 or something like that. Yeah. But because everybody else went up, that's why I'm doing so terrible. So where's Melissa at?
Where is Melissa? Did she beat Brent?
I'm
Oh,
at
boy.
1,400.
She did. 11.
did.
17.
Yeah.
That's the second time in a row, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think so. Man. I'm
We
so
make-
good.
We
Well
make fun
done.
of Melissa every time, but she still manages to beat Brent. Melissa, who is in on John Luke, Maddie, Rianne, and Vanessa.
Yeah, I'm doing my usual strategy. I still haven't learned. I just can't figure it out.
So the reason I went wow when I looked at this, I believe I was 5th place in Big Brother 21 as well. So that's
I think
nuts.
that sounds right to me.
Man.
Yeah. So there you
Very
go.
consistent.
There is Big
Jennifer.
Brother.
Jennifer Draybon in the chat, who follows me, says, I didn't even play and I beat Brent. I had $200.
Oh, God.
Feel free to check out this leaderboard. Anybody can access it on realitystockwatch.com. You can search for any user. I do believe we have some updaters who are playing, but
yeah, that's the other thing I would
Yeah,
like.
what happened to Mel? Mel was way high.
Yeah, can you tell
Look
me?
up Mel.
I don't want to embarrass anybody.
Well, no,
Well,
we don't
that's okay.
have to
I'm
embarrass
embarrassed
anybody.
enough.
I would like for the
She got better than
future-
I did.
I would
And
like for the-
Brent.
We
would like-
we do plan,
we keep interrupting Brent.
we plan.
He's like, I would like.
I know what he's gonna say. We plan on the LFC, that LFC tag. We plan on allowing for like filters with such sorts of things.
Yeah, I want the LFC or not the LFC. I want the live feed updaters.
The updaters, yeah, that'd be cool.
updaters to have a tag so that I can offset from everybody else, so I know who they are.
Yeah, it looks like Mel has. Yeah, she told me yesterday she did go in on Sue, so that was.
Mel
just,
was like number 1 last time.
tied
or
for
something,
first,
wasn't she? Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Wow, how the mighty fall, huh?
Ouch. I think Puya was playing. Puya, 111th place. Not bad.
That's pretty good when there's like 1,500 people. How many people are playing now?
Yeah, like
1,500
1,500-ish.
1,500-ish? Okay.
Let me look. If we go all the way to the end. Wow, 1,680 people.
So almost.
Wow, so now we're
1,700 people.
embarrassing the lowest people. We're like, everyone, look at this.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess
These are the worst people.
I guess I will say that
We're like shaming people now.
I was like 5th place of like 300 in Big Brother 21. And so fifth of 1,600 is not something to shake a tail at.
Yeah,
but it also was 2 weeks of game. So
Yeah. Well, congratulations, Tegan, Jasmine C, and Chrissy Missy, and
Top 3.
Noah Arbs in 4th place for beating Taryn.
Yes.
And
That
Dan
is
for tying
Job well
Taryn.
done. You did me proud.
I wonder, because I had a little bit extra left over and I bought Rianne with it. Yeah, that's exactly what Dan did. Yep. So if I had purchased anybody else, if I had purchased John Luke, I would have probably had a little bit of an edge. All right, so there is the stock watch
always looking for
the
that
season. Yeah, you got it. All right, so let's just run through some of these other questions that we had on the survey, and we'll start to wrap things up. How would you rate the episodes of Big Brother Canada this week? 3.9.
Yeah, not good. A lot of filler, a lot of just,
lot of
who knows.
Really
a lot
bad.
of not telling us
shady
anything.
stuff.
Really bad.
Yeah.
How'd you rate the feeds? 3.1.
Not like almost as bad as the episode.
Feeds are down
didn't
most
exist.
of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How would
good.
you rate the season as a whole so far? 3.9.
Yeah.
Wow. It's the forgotten season at this point. I feel so bad for the cast.
First
I know.
week, I think this was at like a 7.1 or
Yeah.
something. Like,
Everyone was really excited. I was really excited. I mean, it seemed just so promising. Everyone was there to play. It was just like we had a lot of strong characters, a lot of unique people. I was very excited, and it's disappointing to see that this is the way it goes. But that's 2020 for you.
yeah. Rank the players from your favorite to your least favorite. Some interesting results here.
So is this all the players that are
players remaining in the game,
Okay.
and it does include Carroll.
Okay, so I think Carroll has to be at the end. She has to be worst.
Yeah.
Carroll is by far,
Okay.
Okay.
like
But I'm
by a wide margin in
I'm
last
trying
place.
to think of the people who responded to. I think the people that see Brooke has a lot of haters. Melissa, a lot of people online don't like her, and a lot of people do like Maddie, even though I gotta stop saying that word. Sorry, I get on a word and I start using it a lot. She is probably a terrible Big Brother player, Maddie. I love her, but she's terrible.
Disagree. Agree to disagree.
No, she's
Brent.
not terrible, but she doesn't understand how the game can be played. I'll put it that way. I'm still gonna say Brooke is the most well-liked player for people responding to Taryn's survey.
I think people responding to Terran survey will say Sheldon.
Okay, you are both incorrect.
Yeah. I
Ooh.
felt like something shady was gonna happen.
What, Min Lee?
No.
Not Min Lee.
Okay. Well, let's think about this. Okay, could it be Chris?
No.
No. It's not Sue.
No.
It's not Angie. It's not Carroll. We know that.
Kira.
There you go.
Okay.
I was like, wait, Terran survey?
You gotta go through the whole survey, you gotta, the whole
I had to
cast.
think about it, and I was like, wait, if this is a Terran survey, they're going to pick Hira.
Hira in first place by a very small margin, immediately followed by Brooke, who was in second place. They take an average of the ranking here, and Hira was above Brooke by 0.03 of a point.
Oh my God.
So very, very close, but Hira took first place, followed by Brooke, then Sheldon in third place. Another very close, 0.2 of a difference there between Sheldon and Brooke. Then we have a bit of a gap. So very clear top three, Hira, Brooke, and Sheldon, all very close together. Then we have in fourth place, who do we think landed in fourth place here?
Oh God.
Maddie.
Sure.
No, it is Min
I'm
Lee.
bad at this.
Min Lee. Oh,
Yeah.
yay.
Yeah.
That
Min
makes
Lee has a lot of love. I love that.
Mm.
Yes, Min Lee, then John Luke, and then Maddie.
Mm.
Then a more significant drop, and then you got Sue, Rianne, Chris, Angie, Vanessa, and lots of space and Carol. So there you go. That was the last favorite player rankings of the season. We will of course do one big one at the end, the final wrap up, where everybody will be included, of course. I asked strategically who is the best person for Sheldon to have targeted this week for his game, and 51% responded Min Lee was the correct target to focus on, where 15% said Carroll. Now, obviously, this is like a weird week to ask this question. Like, strategically, I think they're probably right that Min Lee was the right target, but then once Carroll wants to quit, is it the same thing? Do you have to account for that in the game? And so I think this is one of the least clear answers here.
Yeah.
So I asked, how do you feel about the Wendy's power necklace toys?
Oh my God. Wow. Talk about a footnote in Big Brother history.
Yeah.
Wow.
Poor Wendy's.
24 out of 100. It's
I'm thinking about that, like when that thing came up and Sheldon looked over and was like, oh, what is that? To when like Brittany and Sarah had it in the have not room in season 3, and like the difference between the two. Like,
yeah,
it was so dumb. It was so dumb.
People did not like this. This is into the hate it territory.
Hate it.
We already talked about what's the better way to quit, and then finally another weird question that's normally straightforward: who do you want to be evicted this week? Because this is weird because technically, if Min Lee is evicted, Carroll also probably leaves.
Yeah.
So and she kind of leaves in an even worse way for her. So if you don't like Carroll, there's a lot of incentive to choose Min here.
Right.
So it was 70% Carroll and 30% Min.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was mad when I saw that Sue was trying to get the votes to keep Carroll around and get rid of Min, because number one, Min was going to be on the jury, and I wanted her to be on the jury at least, if not have a shot to get to the end of the game. And two, I thought it was like, now we're gonna have to put up with Carroll. Like, I didn't really believe she was gonna quit. Like, I think she was one of these people that wanted to be evicted. Like, she wanted to have her tale ended the way she wanted it to be done. And you know, if it didn't happen now, it wasn't gonna happen. I felt like, so I was mad. Like, I don't want to put up with Carroll anymore. Ugh.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's going to wrap this up. Do we have any final thoughts, any final words for Big Brother Canada 8. Like I said, I will be back tomorrow in the morning briefly, and then we'll probably talk on Thursday about tomorrow night's episode, and then the following week as well. We will be back around, and like I said, plenty of interviews, plenty of wrap-ups and brand steals. So we've got plenty of stuff coming down the pipeline. Don't leave us yet, but for now, what are we thinking?
Just to be clear, like there are 2 episodes, and when are they?
They're on Wednesday and Wednesday. Is that what it is?
I believe so.
Okay.
So
no Thursday episode this week?
I don't think so.
So there's an episode tonight, and then an episode next Wednesday, and that's it?
I think so.
Or the episode tomorrow, Wednesday.
Yes. That's what, yeah. Tomorrow,
Sorry,
Wednesday,
I'm not trying to,
and then
I'm
next
not
week,
trying to put you on
Wednesday.
the spot.
I believe that is the case. Either way, whenever they are, we'll be
whenever
talking
the
about them at some point.
Okay.
So.
What about our draft?
Oh, wow.
Who
I
has the most
forgot
people?
about that.
I don't remember, because this year the guy who normally does our cool little like graphic that I then retweet and like refer back to didn't do it. So I don't even know.
Where are you? We need a minion.
It's like I just forgot his name on Twitter. It's like Pipriku or something. Sorry if I like totally botched that.
I'm hearing it's a tie. I lost Kyle. Brent, you lost Jamar.
Yeah, I picked Jamar. I'm pretty sure.
And
none of us
Melissa,
picked Nico.
you lost Michael, and nobody picked Nico. So it's a tie in terms of how many people we have left.
And technically, I didn't lose Carroll yet, so.
Oh. Well, here's what I think we have to do then. When we do the brand steal simulation, the winner of the brand steal simulation will win the draft.
That's good. I like it.
Because we need winners. We can't just end things without winners.
No, Taryn,
needs closure.
Taryn, if we do the brand, I did a brand steal for Sequester. It was last night. Oh my god! Like all the days blend together when you're at home all the time.
I know.
So you're gonna? I trust you to load in all of the relationships.
I think that maybe what we'll do is we'll go through it on the podcast.
All right.
Maybe. We'll see.
Okay. Cool.
And discuss. We'll talk about the players and what their relationships are and what their stats would be. I think that might be fun. So,
cool.
Yeah. So
that's Brant Steele, not Brent Steele. People, come on. Brent Steele, that's a porn star. We that was another life. Let's go.
All right. Anything else? Anything else, Melissa, Brent?
Not really. I'm just sad that this is the way it has to end. I was really looking forward to seeing how the season would play out. I feel like it had a lot of promise. Great cast. And also, this is something uplifting that we needed during this time, I feel, but it's sad to see it go, but I understand, like health and safety, etc. Very important. And, you got to keep in mind that there are crew members who are working on this show when they're not supposed to. I mean, people are supposed to be staying at home. You're supposed to be isolating. And so everyone who says, yeah, but they're all like locked in this one house, they're essentially quarantined together. Like, what's the problem? Isn't that the safest place to be? It's not just them. It's everyone who's working on the show. So, it's unfortunate, but we all have to be understanding, I think. And I just hope that we will see another Big Brother Canada next year.
Yeah. I do want to thank the excellent engineers of realitystockwatch.com.
Yes.
They
Good job.
were fantastic. You can find them on Twitter. I tweeted out, I'll make a retweet of that and send people to them
yes.
on Twitter. They've done a fantastic job working very, very hard on the website, and it has run very smoothly. Considering that we estimated that we'd have like maybe 300 players and we got about 1,600 players, so they've done a great job. And of course, I want to thank Alexandra and Christina and Mel for all their help with the Stockwatch and everything surrounding it. Everyone involved. Brent, Melissa, thank you guys.
Thank you, Taryn. We love working with you as always, and it's always a fun time talking Big Brother. I will say that Taylor in the chat wanted me to mention that he wanted us to do like a merge draft with like the 12 players who are remaining in Survivor right now, but Taylor, I love you, honey, but I don't really have a ton of interest in doing that because it's like the edge of extinction thing. So like, like I just want to enjoy Survivor. Like I don't need a draft in my life to enjoy Survivor. Like I'd come on and talk Survivor. Like I'll tell you guys a secret. I don't love drafts. Like drafts are a mechanism for us to talk about the players. That's why we do.
I love the draft. It invests me in certain players that I wouldn't necessarily be invested in, and it gives me like a vested interest.
I remember I picked Sheldon #1, and after that, I'm like, who the hell did I pick? I think I picked Minley and Jamar. Like I really like. I'm like, who did I pick? So like it's a mechanism for us to talk about the players in a way that you guys can understand it. But like come on, like I'm not.
Well, fine. You guys can step aside and let me win every draft from now on because I care about the draft.
What do you think I've been doing, Melissa?
Ugh,
I still like to win because then that means you didn't win.
Well, if you want some Survivor coverage, I will be talking with Kevin Martin on Thursday about this coming week's episode of Survivor. So make sure you check that out. I've been doing that every week, and of course, as I've mentioned before, you can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong. I will be doing some more streams as Big Brother is closing out, and I'll also maybe be uploading things to YouTube where you can find me. It's like YouTube. It's Taran Armstrong on YouTube or whatever.
Okay. Sorry, not to put you on the spot, Taran, but like people keep asking me this. They want me to talk about what I was. So the other night I played a Sequester mini. People don't understand what a mini is. So like they were wanting me to go over to Twitch on your channel sometime, and like so if you want to do that sometime this week, I could hop over there for like an hour and talk about my experience the mini or like the mini was or
for those that did not see it, that are not aware, Brent and I covered a season of Sequester. That is the live version that is days long and is produced.
Play it in a house like Big Brother.
Yes. But they especially with the current state of the world, that they're running some mini seasons online, and Brent actually participated in one of those the other night. And so Brent has actually now had a little taste of what it's like to play in something like this.
I got voted out.
That's so cool.
You did.
Did you really? Oh my God. That's so fun.
It's basically like a night of like picture like if you play Big Brother and wrapped it all up into one night. That's basically what it's like. Like you're going, like you're clicking around the rooms and you're doing this and doing that and talking to people and figuring out who's lying to you and who's not. And like, so yeah, maybe I'll come over to Twitch sometime this week when
that's so cool.
We got nothing but time, folks. So I'll come over there. And I know that Audrey's going to be running the minis every week. So you can just like write at Sequester Access on Twitter or go to patreon.com/Sequester. Or especially women, by the way, like that's the other thing about the minis that I saw. When you have people signing up at home to play these reality TV games and vote people out, and backstab, and do all that fun stuff, it's a lot of guys behind the keyboard. We need more women. So if you're a woman out there who likes to play and likes to play hard, like go for it.
That was definitely something that you were doing in the game. Like we can't get out the women.
Yeah, yeah, right. I mean, like, come on, like, I mean. Like I'm gay as hell, and I don't want to sit around and look at a bunch of guys. Like, come on. Like, let's have a little diversity.
All right. Well, I think that's about what we have for you. So make sure you find me on Twitch. Again, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong. Thank you guys so much for joining us this season. I hope that what little we got from this season, even though it was tumultuous, it was controversial, it was all sorts of messy and everything else in between. I hope that we've done our best to talk you through it and to give you some companionship in these very isolated times of ours. And as I said, I will do my best to continue to provide you as much content as we can get out of the season in the coming weeks. So please stay tuned for that. And thank you guys so much for allowing us to do this for you and to provide a distraction for ourselves. And you guys are our companions, and I know that Brent and Melissa are with me when we say that we very much appreciate everything that you guys do for us, and we hope that you all stay safe and stay together. We're all in this together. So
stay together, but very far apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stay by yourself. Do not be together. Everybody
Metaphorically.
isolate. Make sure you stay isolated.
Yes. All right. So that's what we have for you. Thank you so much for joining us. You can find me on Twitter at Armstrong Taryn. Brent is at One Lucky Gay. Melissa is at It's Melissa with 3 A's. And that's what we have for you. So for Brent and Melissa, I'm Taryn Armstrong. That's it. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.